Ground.
Well, we know it's in the background. Hey, it's episode 60 and we're live of the Fancast. I'm your host, the drinking nerd Brain Muffin. With me tonight, all the way from places I don't care to mention, Rally Frank.
Hey, how's it going?
And apparently somebody's still in LMP's hubcaps. How's it doing in New York?
Well, Lade, I can tell you safely right now, somebody's car is possibly getting jacked into. I really don't know. I really can't tell. But being that this is the poor side of New York City and not the other side with the colorful rainbow people. Oh, never mind. It stopped. Jacking is over.
It was you, wasn't it?
No, not this time.
Can you say that the jacking is off? All right. And from Deas Tejas, Tependai.
I'm technically more Mexican than LMP, but you know, whatever.
How the hell does that work?
Because my mom's from Mexico.
That is actually crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy that I'm the resident Mexican and yet you're more Mexican than I am.
That's what I was saying.
And you don't speak no Spanish.
Exactly.
I speak more than you do.
Yep.
That's really
And you know
scary.
what? I'm perfectly fine with it.
And I'm horrible, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. Frank, and nobody cares about him, right?
Nope.
So here's a question. Who,
Sorry, I don't speak
who here Spanish is close to Peggy Hill Spanish?
That sucks. That's low, man. That's pretty low, LMP, to say that.
I'm just saying, who has the Peggy Hill Spanish here?
I don't know exactly what that means. Does she speak very good? Or does
No,
she
she
speak it
speaks
with a
shitty
completely
Spanish.
American accent? Oh.
Like, there's a whole episode where she ends up accidentally kidnapping a Mexican girl, taking her over the border illegally because she sucks at speaking Spanish.
Oh. Donde estas labanjas?
I think the episode was called Lupe's Revenge.
That kind of Spanish?
I don't know how the hell it's revenge, but yeah.
Yeah, because she's the one who basically was saying, like, hey, that's the woman that kidnapped me, and then they arrested her.
Well, that teaches you something, ladies and gentlemen. Don't trust little Mexican girls.
No, don't go to Mexico ever. There's your lesson.
Yeah.
Go to Australia.
Go to Australia. And,
where everything's trying to kill you.
Mr. Applegate hopefully will be joining us very soon from the other side of the world and south of the equator.
Yeah.
Isn't like
Southern
Australia, SJW Central now?
Do what?
He says it
Like
says
they ban-
SJW Central or something like that.
Is what?
Australia.
So I know we have a list of things, but I have something I want to talk about. Do you guys hear about Sargon getting kicked off of Patreon?
No. That sucks. Come on. That ain't funny. Some serious shit.
You know, it's fear from their banks. They've now figured out that the way to get people deplatformed is to
Their wallets.
go after the payment processor. So Patreon can't lose their payment processor for everybody that they have, and so off he went.
Damn.
It's all right. They're going to start doing left-wing people next. Popular left-wing sites will be next. Anybody that speaks, I mean, you've got the what's his nuts, the head of the IMF, saying that they're going to make, you know, talking about the immigration policy, hate speech. Hey, Mr. Applegate, can you hear us?
Okay, can you?
I can hear. We can hear you.
Yep. You made it.
How you doing?
Hello? Looks like you're in an airplane.
Like a private jet. There,
Okay.
David.
I don't know.
Can you hear us? How are things down under?
We can hear him breathing, but
can you hear me now?
sure.
Yes.
Yes.
There you are.
Clearly.
Yeah. Loud and clear.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. Well, Mr. Applegate, our typically only viewer, is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just getting started. We're just talking about Sargon getting kicked off of Patreon, but that's about it.
Yes, I just saw that. He's actually not the only one, but
Right.
it's been like one a day. You know, they picked I think not Paul Joseph Watson. I think they picked somebody like down the line associated with him from that group, and have just been slowly progressing. And I think Sargon is like, you know, a link in that chain of the same people who hang out. Including that Sam Harris, who's actually not a big Trump supporter. It's not. It seems to be both sides of the aisle who don't follow their strict ideology.
Yep. Well, no, that's what I've noticed. It's you know, there's some because Sargon's more of a classic liberal, maybe slightly libertarian in some ways, but and he many times was just, you know, going to where the protests were and just kind of, you know, hanging out with people and having a conversation. And that's what I was telling these guys. A lot of it is they're going after the payment processors. So you know, Patreon can't lose. This is what they did to Gab to AI. So this was something that was supposed to be kind of, you know, a competitor of Twitter, and they shut down the payment processors. And apparently the guy running Gab, or no, the guy running BitChute, because their payment processing got shut down too. He even went to payment processors that handle porn sites, even though they charge a lot more for transactions, and they won't even touch it. So yeah, it's going to be one of these things where if you speak ill against YouTube, Twitter, Apple, Microsoft, you know, the status quo, whoever defines whatever that is, you know, it's. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that poem. It's been attributed to a couple different versions, but you know, the first they came for the.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Nazi Germany. You know, it's like, you know, they came for the, you know, the union.
First it was the Catholics,
right?
Then
it was then they came for the trade unionists. I wasn't trade unionist, so I said nothing. Then they came, you know, and eventually they came for me, and there was no one left.
To speak. Yeah, it didn't start with the Jews. That's what a lot of people don't understand. It actually started first with the Catholics. 2 years before the first race laws were passed, Hitler was already arresting and jailing priests for sedition because they were acting for a foreign entity.
Oh,
okay? That's how they started. And what do we have with the collusion delusion? Acting for a foreign entity. Wait a minute, what's the global initiative again? What's the Clinton global initiative again? It's sheer hypocrisy.
Yeah. You know, and I came aware of it. Go ahead.
So they call Hitler a nationalist, okay? He was an imperialist who used the word nationalist, just like the word socialist has nothing to do with society. It's just a word.
Yeah. But, you know, I heard about this through a reason why I bring it up is because I did hear it on this morning on Good Morning Pop Culture, Jeff. I didn't catch it live. I caught it later, and then I had to go like, what in the world is he talking about? Because apparently a couple people have said, hey, we'll still support you. They've quit Patreon and they still want to support. And after I kind of poked around the internet and found out what the heck was going on, I'm like, I might just start sending them a check every month. You know, still supporting WCBS, but not doing it through Patreon. Because the problem is there isn't going to be an alternative since they're getting it's, you know, it's one of these things that I don't know how many 30 years ago or something like that. Someone told me, oh, the bankers, they run the world. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It's conspiracy theorists. Well, you know, that's another quote that's supposed to be attributed to one of the Rothschilds. You know, if I control a country's money, I don't care who makes its laws. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I mean, I don't want to go down, you know, the Alex Jones rabbit hole, but you know, it's interesting. We've got some more, you know, obviously WCBS and even EVS and Geeks and Gamers aren't really big enough to kind of get attention, but you know. If that boulder keeps rolling, it's going to run over all of us. Uh-oh.
Yeah, people got to push back sometime, though.
Sorry about that.
You should be.
Yeah, but the reason why that poem was written because people didn't push back until it came for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
True.
So
and you can't count on people to learn from history,
right?
Not these days.
Yeah. There was a guy. His real name I forget, but he published under the name Adam West because at the time Batman was on and he needed a pseudonym to publish because of British law. At the time, British law forbid. Absolutely. If you used to work for the British government, you couldn't publish unless you handed your manuscript to them. and he was going to blow the lid on the Philby case. Okay. Now, the Philby case was about to explode, and JFK was going to be named as a witness. Okay? Then JFK obviously gets assassinated. The Philby case falls apart. Philby runs away to Russia, and quite a lot of people scurry for the London Underground, never to be seen again as well, including somebody I who met. He published under the name Adam West. He never really disclosed his real name. He changed his name many times. But the explosive thing is the British government always knew Philby and what Philby was up to. That the bankers were playing both sides. They were financing the British government. They were financing MI5. They were financing the Russian government. These people were meeting at banking conferences. They knew Philby was talking to the Russians, and nothing was done. And JFK was there. He was there. Others were there. World leaders were there, and this was a huge conspiracy at the time in '63 to go to war between the West and Russia, and that JFK wouldn't play along.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard various things. JFK. Even by the time we got to Clinton, and Clinton, viewed himself as a modern day JFK. He could, if you listen to his platform and things that he was for, he sounds more conservative than Reagan. It's like, he
was supposed to propose the wall.
Right. Well, he opposed war in Vietnam, and wasn't really until Johnson took over afterwards that we started really getting involved there. I'm about to be interrupted.
Yeah. You are?
You? Yes. It's Kellogg's.
Oh.
We're live.
Tell her I said, "What up, nigga?"
I'm not saying that to her.
Well, let me say it then.
Can they stop being weird?
Can you hear?
Can they behave, please? I'm taken. Thank you. Don't talk to me.
You don't hear that?
I mean,
dude, she likes you.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's
my heart is starting to pound faster. Oh,
yeah,
shit.
I know. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to chat a little bit about the Sargon and all that, and there goes Ellie. And we'll see how far down the hole this the hill the side that this thing rolls. I mean, they're picking off the somewhat bigger targets, but this is I was watching someone I forget whose video it was today. I was listening more than watching, and this was someone who disagreed with Alex Jones, disagreed with Paul Joseph Watson a lot. They were pseudo kind of what left wing, we'll say liberalish, and they're like, it said this is really starting to get out of hand. It's like they were starting to understand, hey, one of my people, because they're already starting to eat their own a little bit too. So maybe it'll get so ridiculous that it'll blow up, and not literally, obviously. And in the meantime, France is burning, but for a good reason. So
not just France. Okay?
Oh yeah, that's what I heard today.
Yes, there was a riot in. Well, there's a march today in England, but there was a riot yesterday. I forget where it was in Germany. It wasn't big, but Merkel was passing through town at the time, on their way to the news conference with Macron.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a group of farmers. They wanted to confront Merkel about land acquisition. And we've heard nothing, and you can find nothing on what's going on in Germany right now about land acquisition. But they want to give vast amounts of land to foreign farmers.
Yeah.
They want to double the German population by 2050, bringing in 1 million a year.
Yeah.
That's more than the German population. That is by UN the definition of genocide.
Yeah, it's definitely population swapping, but what I really hope to keep it try it relevant to what we talk about normally. It's fine. I'm the one who started this whole mess, but it really becomes a free speech issue. It's individual rights. It's various things. I remember Jeff talking about it, and he and I even chatted a little bit, like at his birthday party and other places, where they were growing great for a while, and then it paused, and they're started up again. But for a while, they were like, "Oh, these guys are mostly minorities and all this stuff." And they've even mentioned on their show when they start talking about some of their critics that call them, 4 white guys, and it's because they're 4 guys. They're 4 general guys. They all have different opinions, and they differ from the approved norm, if you will. And so they must be a bunch of white hate group. And there's one white guy. It's kind of what's funny, and it's like, yeah, we'll support you as long as you agree with us and you don't act up. So, but we'll see what happens. So if anybody listening, if you're a patron of WCBS, just as Jeff said this morning, they get I think he said they get 5%. So if you're $10 a month, I think it's 50 cents and then on up. So but they do have a PO box now, and it's a little less convenient, but I'm sure Jeff would be fine with people sending him checks if it comes to that. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right.
It almost has. Because I'm not. I used to be very big into conspiracies, and I used to study a lot of them. And most of them do turn out to be rubbish. But when the biggest conspiracy and the original conspiracy starts turning out to be true 50 years later, it sort of makes you think again and go, well, eventually they will come for the little guy who speaks out. The big studios have already done it with CBS. This is not political. This is CBS shutting down, I think, 5 channels so far because they criticize one of their shows. And even if you mention their show, you get demonetized. You get demonetized just for mentioning how bad one of their shows is.
Yeah.
Now, I never heard of that, 10 years ago.
Yeah. I think that's why, this is why we had the cancellation of some of those Marvel shows on Netflix. I think Disney has something to do with that. It's not, some of them weren't great, but I think Disney doesn't want that. And so we're going to tone that down, and
it was
we're going to
content.
We're going to get a PG-13 rating of Deadpool. Is that Deadpool 2 or?
Yeah, no, Deadpool 3 and the Deadpool series are going to be PG-13.
Oh, I thought they were coming out with a cut of 1 or 2 that this like in December there's supposed to be another cut that's a PG-13.
Yeah, no, that's Deadpool Christmas, and they've already teased the trailer. They've dropped the recut of Deadpool 2 and going with Deadpool Christmas.
Right. Well, let's move on to some other bad business decisions. Cap and I know you wanted to talk about Bethesda.
Okay. Yes. So we finally have sort of I guess you could say, a breath of fresh air in fact that this whole situation wasn't because of SJW antics. It was just incompetence. So what the seeds were planted back at E3 or whatever the hell that event's called, where they announced Fallout 76 and we're like, oh yeah, it's by the way, it's multiplayer. And I'm like, okay, maybe, but then I was like, well, I ain't gonna worry about that. I'll get the story. Of course, later on, people found out it was just going to be multiplayer. It really isn't a single. You can play by yourself, but there's really not a single player story. And then, of course, as things were progressing, the beta, like, it was buggy as hell. People's save games were being deleted, if I remember correctly. And then, so what happened was sometime later, people got their pre-order games. People would pre-order. I think they spent like $200 on it. And they got the helmet, like the helmet they wear for the power armor, and they got a bag. But apparently it was some cheap nylon crap. And so people were asking for maybe a replacement. Bethesda didn't want to. They said they weren't. But then they would give them 500 atoms. So it was like in-game currency. That ain't shit. And then so they start. Yeah, $5. Yeah. So they're like, yeah, I forgot it was $5. But then so people were wanted to return them, if I remember correctly. They wanted to. Or they were going to actually give them the actual bag.
Yesterday, they tried a mass return, and they were told that pre-orders cannot be mass returned. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it all started is the bag wasn't even in the right style. Okay, all they asked for was the bag in the right style. They didn't care it was plastic. Then they said it was Bethesda who brought up the canvas was shortage. Now, canvas shortage? This is used in China, you know, where it was made. And then it turns out the $219 pack, right, cost them $19 to make. That's how it exploded. That's how it exploded.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why it exploded last night. Fallout fans apparently again, it was at GameStop, whoever handle or Steam, whatever, they're going to take them to court. There's some sort of class action building.
Yeah, and there was that came up. But the big thing I was going to mention, pretty much I guess the cherry on top was people were having their information and it was revealed. All their information was leaked. Their names, their addresses, credit cards they were using. It's out there for people to see.
What an incredible timing on the hack.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it is just it's this weird, crazy, wild, this fire that's breaking out. And it's actually been kind of fun to watch. But like I was saying earlier at the beginning, it's kind of a breath of fresh air at the same time, even though it's bad, because it isn't the same SJW antics. It's just stupidity and incompetence. So whatever y'all want to say about it.
Biggest stupidity was when it first broke, when the guy just asked for the right bag. And they said, you don't deserve it on Twitter live. Telling somebody they don't deserve something, a $19 shopping bag, a $19 you don't deserve a $19 canvas bag after paying $200 for it.
Yep.
And it turns out it only cost them $19, not just for the bag, the helmet, the game, everything. They reused code from the original Fallout engine. They reused graphics from all the last Fallout games. They did about 25% new coding. That's it.
Yeah, I've seen several videos on that where they've shown the comparisons. People really didn't want to play online. That really wasn't a big draw. And then there's so much reuse, and then some of it's not even good. They've redone it, but it's actually worse than the games they pulled it from.
Yeah, because they screen grabbed, because they don't own the original code. Remember, Fallout Bethesda was only the original distributor at the start.
Yeah, I'm not playing any of the Fallout games, so I don't.
Remember when Fallout started? They had that big. They had all these logos at the start. They had like 5 logos in the original game.
You're talking about the first game, the very first one. Okay,
the very first one. They had 5 different company logos at the start.
And then
they didn't own the engine. I think they reused modified Unreal Engine at the start.
Yeah, so probably.
It was very put together. It was like, it's like one of those, where you buy a game and it's not really a game, where you have to add the graphics to it to make it a game. That's what it feels like. But it was not a bad game, the first one.
LMP?
Oh, yeah.
You want to say something?
Fucking up.
Yeah, because you keep flashing, man. You keep flashing every 5 seconds.
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. You guys started talking video games, and I still have a copy of the Mega Man X Legacy Collection for the Switch. And I'm not going to lie, it's been very difficult to put it down lately.
I got the Command & Conquer X series. Have you ever heard of that? It was the re-release of all the Command & Conquer games up until 3.
Really? Which
it's like 8 or 9 games, It's all the legacy games. It runs on Windows, sort of. But I just got when I was logging in, my phone popped up and it wanted me, and it was advertising the new Command & Conquer game. So there's Fallout, stole a lot of that crowd, that people who got into gaming around my time, all knew Command & Conquer, all loved the Command & Conquer style games that came out after that, because Command & Conquer got pushed aside by its competitors. And Fallout sort of had a Command & Conquer style game knockoff. It started as a knockoff, I think, but they and I was in Vietnam at the time, so it was everywhere, you know. And I picked up a copy for like $34 duty free on the way home, and I came to Australia and it was like $300 and something. You know, it was like, what the? Because, but games have slowly come down, you know, because we used to have taxes on everything up to the eyeballs.
Now it's just up to the mouth, right? The chin.
Yeah. Now, yeah. But, you know, they're talking about the Switch being expensive in the States. I think it's $149 dearer here.
Really?
Yeah, that's how bad because they're shipping it from the States they're shipping it from Japan to America, and then from America it's being shipped out to the rest of the world. So everything costs more.
Oh, that's weird.
But there's a growing enterprise of people on Amazon who are they're setting up shop, and what they do is they fly stuff out every 3 days from the States and sell it direct.
Wow.
Okay, that's interesting to know. I mean, I won't say that the Switch necessarily over here in the United States is a very expensive console. For $300. I mean, for what basically it does, it seems just about right. And honestly, I've lost a lot of faith in Sony and Microsoft a while back. So more or less, I have something to. And mind you, the Switch started re-releasing all these games, like Diablo's on it now, like the Mega Man X collection's on it. They're gonna come out with more collections apparently. Hell, they even announced yesterday they were gonna release titles like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and Mortal Kombat 11, which is pretty surprising. I never thought Nintendo would do that, but you know that's beside the point.
It's a re-release of Mortal Kombat X, which was actually Mortal Kombat 3, and it's actually one of the better versions of the game.
Yeah. Actually,
a lot of interest in the older games, because not only were they better, they had gameplay, they had story, but the people had put heart into those games. There was a lot of detail in the original Mortal Kombat.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, the thing I always say is that the internet, for better or for worse, when it came to video games, is both a blessing and a curse. Blessing in that it created new possibilities, new horizons. The possibilities are now infinite when it comes to video games and the internet. Unfortunately, the cons is that it also made a lot of these companies somewhat lazy in what they do. Like before, if you made a video game, despite time constraints and everything, you had to get everything right, or by the time that game came out, that was it. Whatever the final product was it. There was no DLC, there was no patches, there was no you had to re-release the entire game with new coding and new updates or anything for you to, like, let's say for an example of that would be, just look at Capcom and Street Fighter. How many times did 2 or 3 get re-released? Just as an example. Nowadays you can easily patch that up with, oh, we're just gonna do an update patch, and it gave them that safety net to fall back on, and the consumers unfortunately allow that to get too far, which is why we have some of the things that we have going on nowadays. Speaking of Bethesda, something wrong. You guys jogged my memory a little bit. I sent you a video on the chat. This is actually something that was shown by Memology. So apparently related to the canvas bag on Baggate thing, as it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, some people did get the authentic bag that was promised with the pre-order.
Yeah, that was the first release, though. That was the people who paid the beta release through Steam. Not everybody, just Steam. Like I said before, it was handled by different companies.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball on this one. But honestly, you know what? I wasn't really surprised. AAA companies fucking up nowadays is kind of like their thing.
Well, when I was really struggling for a job, one of my jobs was what they called a filler. And what we'd do is we'd get a whole bunch of different stuff, and we'd have to fill them up with, like, in less than a minute sometimes, an entire shopping bag with, you know, all your goodies and, you know, your grab bags, your show bags, all that sort of stuff. And we'd have to do like 1,000 bags a day. But we used to have supervisors from different companies come along and quality check to make sure it was the right bag. You know, they'd pick random bags and make sure you know, when we first started, that the right gifts were in the bag, that the right bags were going to the right people. In the end, they were making so little money on it that they were cutting back on quality checks. They were trying to make us pack twice as many bags, and that they tried to get unpaid overtime, everything. These companies farm out all the time. You know, Bethesda, like I said, Bethesda farmed this out to a group of companies. It cost them next to nothing to do. And you think, ask the average Mexican how much they make, you know, less than, you know, that's what they do. They ship it over the border, or they go to China and say ship them in packed, and they don't quality check because quality checking costs money. You know, Bethesda's trying to squeeze every last cent out of Fallout, and it is because they failed with the Fallout re-release.
Right.
You know, the re-release, and I forget, one of the consoles failed. So was it? So obviously, all the on sales of the original Fallout re-release didn't happen. So, you know, they taught. I also worked as a game code. I actually coded a game once and been through the publishing process, and you know, the beta testers, you know, they cost you a lot of money, and all the cycles of testing cost you a lot of money. And the company I was working with, they started cutting back on quality to increase their profit. It's been building for a long time. Bethesda's just the latest to, you know, take a shortcut because, you know, they built themselves up. You know, they built themselves up to the point where they wanted $26 million a year, some of their executives. That's how, you know, where's that going to come from? That's going to come from the bottom staff first.
Definitely.
But was there really a demand for another Fallout game? Especially with all the other games that were released and knew were coming. Everybody knew Red Dead was going to be a huge success when they saw its demo 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you had that, and if you saw the E3 release, you knew Fallout 76 wasn't going to be a success. They couldn't match the quality of any of the other games. They could have saved themselves millions of dollars by saying, look, we're going to wait for the next cycle to release this.
That would have probably been better, yeah.
Like you said, LMP said before, it's incompetence. Was it LMP? Sorry.
It was me.
It was you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. But it was
on
incompetence. It's incompetence. Now, what would you do if you saw 5 games better than you? And you go, well, most people only buy 3 or 4 games a year. There's too much competition. I'll wait for the next cycle. That's what we had to do, you know, 20 years ago when we were releasing games. Publishers would only handle 3 or 4 games a year. If you know, that's...
Mm-hmm.
And they were behind. They were behind the curve. They were already a year behind coding. They knew they weren't going to meet the first release date. They should have said, we're going to take 2 more years and we're not going to take any more money for pre-orders. We're going to give you your money back. They would have saved millions of dollars.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched a video. It's been a few weeks ago. This guy is an independent game releaser. He's been doing stuff for 20 years. And, you know, he had a big explosion in growth in the 90s. And, I mean, his games have come along, but I mean, they're not anything to like, you know, these huge games that we're talking about. But that's what he noticed. He noticed that he produces fewer games each year, but he has a loyal following. And if a game isn't right, if they release it, it fails. If they take the time to correct it, now granted within reason, they can't take another 3 years, but they can take another few more months and release it when it's either better or there's not that much competition, and it does far better. So, and these are just like, I would say VGA size graphics. So you're talking, you know, 256 color type games. But
totally average. You're talking your average game developer. Once you get past the top 200 game developers, they're making less than 1% of their sales.
Right.
Because the costs are that high for advertising now. You know, you go to your average, there's very few advertising revenues. Particularly, it costs just, all your sponsored Twitter. Sometimes you see your Bethesda ads for sponsor. Lately, those ads cost $1,000 each time. Imagine if they just took the time to get the game right. They wouldn't be apologizing every hour on the hour.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, just a tweet like that, just to pay Twitter to do a tweet on the hour, right? About, I think you only get 12 of them anyway. They cost you $1,000 each tweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's, I forget what it costs for magazine advertising, but some advertising is upwards of $15,000-$20,000. Look at Facebook. It's $3 for a reach of, say, 5,000 people. Okay, that's just 5,000 people. Now, to sell a game, how many people you have to reach? About 100 times your customer base to get average sales.
Yeah.
So you're talking advertising, of millions of dollars in the case of Bethesda.
Yeah.
Some of these games cost more than a movie to make.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, well, I've heard various stats over the years. I think a campaign is considered successful if it has a 3% response rate. I mean, that's like huge. It's usually 1% or less, but if you get 2 or 3, like, Facebook,
the average is less than 1%. Less than 1% of people respond to 96% of ads on Facebook. So I don't know what it is. I've read about it. I sort of understand it. My sister's studying psychology. It's called group dynamics, okay? If something's popular, if it meets certain group dynamics. Unfortunately, we can't always define, like Fallout 2 was more popular than Fallout 1. But you can't define the dynamics before the game came out that said more people are going to go like this game. It's sort of, group dynamics is actually looking back and saying, why was this successful? Like, why was Star Wars successful and not, Clone Wars, even though it was a much higher production quality,
Mm-hmm.
And Bethesda, I don't know what their study ever. They never released these studies, but it'd be interesting to see what made them think Fallout 76 was going to be a success after the initial demo was released. Because if you knew anything about group dynamics, if you saw E3 and the fact that less than 100 people attended the premiere, I think that tells you it's a failure, doesn't it? When you've got 76,000 people a day coming through, less than 100 come to your stand.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that sounds like a recipe for success. Hey, I want to take a quick moment to shout out some people who are in the chat there. Grim Falcon and Sophie Epi Christian. Did I get that right? I hope. Yeah, we can't do super chats on this channel because we don't have gotta have 1,000 subscribers to get that. So tell your friends and neighbors to subscribe. So just send us a check as long as it doesn't bounce.
Buy a goddamn t-shirt.
Yeah. Give us your fucking money.
Sold t-shirts in a year. Yeah, he was talking about that on Good Morning Pop Culture again today, and it's like, dude, a year ago you were saying the new website was coming up by February 2018. He stopped selling Incarnate Studio, I want to say in October of last year. Basically, when they started restructuring, well, no, the restructuring was this year, wasn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
That was mostly this year. But yeah, I'm like, dude, and he has a press and all that stuff, and I'm like, dude, it's like he had that farmed out, and I have several of the t-shirts from back then, and I didn't find any problem with them, but he wanted to have a better quality control. But you can't do it all, man. You can't be drawing because they were going to do a movie this year. Remember, that was last year. That was the big thing. That was the movie. Yeah. Bum off of WCBS. So I don't know if Grim Falcon knows that this podcast actually started. Myself, Liquid Metal Pro, and Kendo Slice as a way for the fans to speak back to world class bullshitters. It's actually, I think,
Interaction.
yeah. Well,
Before,
you and Kendo and Oggs, I think, or somebody, because I got pulled in it by Dustin. I wasn't part of it, but Dustin kept mentioning me, so I finally reached out to you guys and said, "Hey, are you serious?"
Yep, that was how it happened.
Yeah. So, because I have a YouTube channel, and I knew how Jeff was recording stuff with Skype, and so I found the software, and I said, "Hey, let's do some experiments," and we did. And I said, "Hey, let's do a live show or a recorded show," and yeah, David, I don't know if you can see if you can put the links in the chat. If not, put them in our group chat, and I'll put them in the description.
Yeah, I'll try. I have the link somewhere.
Yeah, and if not, just put them in the group chat inside of the Hangout. And
Now the problem. Now
copy them.
I've had problems too.
So
I had problems uploading the other day, and I've had problems for the last month with Patreon. Now, I'm not going to call somebody up and say, hey, you and your mates join Patreon, and then after downloading all my stuff, you quit before getting payment charge. I mean, that happens to everybody on Patreon.
Oh, wow.
And, people quit. But I've been shadow banned on Patreon. I've had I'm feeling like, quitting sometimes because of the amount of time people jerk me around saying, oh, what's your Patreon? What's this? Oh, we love you. Make more videos. The thing is, all right, my computer crashed. So, there goes me editing software and all that down the dunny. So I've got a laptop now, and trying to do videos on that is terrible because you get huge pauses. You get these red, the key, your key screens are red.
Right.
It says no video available. You try and upload that to YouTube, when it's not even encoding and it takes sometimes 12 hours to encode a 1 hour video. And then it won't let me go live because the only alternative is to try and do it live,
Right.
like this. And I can't because I ain't got the software on the notebook. I've got to get all that set up again. So, but yeah, so that could be one reason why people quit on Patreon on me. But I couldn't upload to Patreon for a whole month, and I still can't explain why. And this is nothing controversial. This is just reviews of chapters of 1984, which I was asked to do, by a patron. And what happens? Oh, the patron just quits on me after the first one. Now, it wasn't my fault that I couldn't message them or anything. I couldn't message anybody. I couldn't do anything. And Patreon still can't explain why. Was I shadow banned? Did I step on somebody's toes? Because in Australia, 1984 isn't copyrighted material.
Oh.
Our copyrights expire sooner. America's the only one left with a copyright on 1984.
Yeah. Well, isn't it is it 100 years? It's I know copyright in the States is
so much longer. Yeah.
Because that was the thing with Mickey Mouse. Disney was running into they got the government to change it. They somehow re-up the copyright because on Mickey Mouse that was about to expire.
Yeah, it was 75 years on the original Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
That's the original because it's changed since then. And I know Disney, they recently, didn't they recently put Steamboat Willie on the front of one of their Pixar movies just to keep the copyright.
Really?
Yeah, because it just has to be included in something to be used.
Right.
To re-up your copyright. But see, there's lots of dead authors who can't do that, right? Because their family can't afford to, because getting book republished, you actually have to. If the publisher doesn't want to republish it, your only option is to pay yourself,
right.
And it costs something like $1,000 per run minimum. 1,000 books run per minimum, right? So that's thousands of dollars you have to spend, right? And a lot of books don't sell. And here's the thing, and a lot of people are going to scream blue murder at this, but Harry Potter said Borders broke, okay? Because Borders bought up 90% of Harry Potters that was supposedly, quote, air quotes, sold, were actually bought by Borders. 100 million people didn't buy Harry Potter, okay? 100 million bought Harry Potter when Borders went broke and you could buy it for $1. I know because I was there, and they had huge piles. They had more Harry Potter books in Brisbane than there are people in Brisbane. Now, so now you could ask yourself, right? Why would a company, right? They opened a coffee shop, right? In a not in the suburb of a suburb of, what is it, fourth major city in Australia? Not even the first or second. They opened a shop in a city with just over 1 million people, and they have 2 million copies of Harry Potter to sell.
Yeah.
So I want that, I want somebody to do that for me, I want a company to buy 100 million copies of my book, and then, as they go broke, sell it to everybody for $1,
Yeah, I'd buy it.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, but again, you've got to ask yourself, and again, it comes down to the conspiracy, the banks run everything, is that Borders, GM, a lot of these companies run on free money.
Yeah.
Bethesda, I think Bethesda's running on free money. I think they took out a zero-interest loan. Where's my zero-interest loan?
Yeah.
Where's
Well,
yours?
Yeah, that was back, we had a lot of that under, when Obama was president, we had, try to get the economies going, all these zero interest loans. And
But it
all
didn't
it did
start
was
with
increase,
Obama.
right. All it did was increase the debts of companies. It's like, yeah, but my mortgage and the, still was at, I don't know, 6.5% or whatever it was.
Yeah, everybody else had to pay interest. Yeah, credit card interest has gone to like 19-something%, and the banks are still paying how much interest again?
Right. You're lucky if you get 0.5% on your on your
savings.
Account. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy who's making more money by buying, but how the US used to have silver dollars.
Right.
There's a guy. Remember Pawn Stars? One of the guys from Pawn Stars. He goes around to all the hawk shops and buys up all the silver, all the gold and silver coins. A lot of hawk shops have coins and jewelry. He's making money selling all that back because of the high price of gold, silver, and. But I tell you something, there's no shortage of diamonds. When I was in Vietnam, the diamond exchange there, I bought pearls for about $250. Brought them back to Australia, and this was before they were cracking down at airports on duty free. I got $800 for them each. I bought a bag of pearls for $250 and got 800 each. Now, of course, I had to pay tax on that, declare income. Otherwise, you're screwed. Because actually, I've been screwed by the tax departments because I knew even if I was late by a day, they would crack down on me because our tax penalties are double plus prime interest.
Oh, yeah.
I had a $43,000 tax debt that turned into $236,000.
Oh,
damn.
shit.
Yeah. So I didn't want to get in trouble over that, and I'm sure the tax department. I don't know what I did. I declared my income. It wasn't enough that I gone broke. They took everything, but when I got the idea off my father, in the 50s, people were going to Singapore, buying gold watches and going back to the States, and they could pay for the entire trip just by selling that one gold watch.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you can't do that because you go through the airport, metal detector goes off, or you got any precious diamonds or gems. Oh, boom, they hit you with enough sales tax, with enough income tax, with enough. You think tariffs don't exist? Wait till you try and bring something valuable. No, I had one guy, he went to the States and bought a motherboard which wasn't available in Australia. It was a dual processing 386. Back then the 386 was the bee's knees, and having 2 processors at 33 megahertz each was an absolute, you turn this thing on and it's probably still, most computers today still turn on as fast as the old computers did.
Yeah. Some of them.
But he got hit with a $15,000 tariff.
Wow.
On this motherboard that cost him $300 in the States. But it just shows you, people, people in the early days, in the 80s and 90s even, were making a fortune on eBay. Now they're not. Now they're closing. Now they're leaving eBay.
Yeah.
And always it's the government that kills the golden goose.
Well, it's these companies that, let's look at what Microsoft keeps trying to do with the second run market, right? They announced, was it last week that they announced that the next console is not going to have a drive? It's going to be all download. It was the Xbox One. There was some things with it's you're basically renting the game. You're not really buying it, and you couldn't resell it because it's going to call back and know that, hey, this has already been installed somewhere. So even when you're done with the game, you couldn't trade it in or whatever.
Holy
remember,
cow.
all that whole second level tier market just kind of dies out, and people are wondering, what and it's, I think it's all tied into this nonsense we had with Sargon. We kind of started with that. These companies don't want the competition. They don't want someone sneaking up behind them and taking them out. And so they can protect their monopolies in various ways. And, I guess I got a kind of a glimpse of this back in '86 when I came back from Germany to go to school. I had electronics that I purchased on a military base, right? I did not purchase that on the economy in Germany. I purchased it on a military base, and it through the customs officials didn't know what to do with me. I mean, they basically sent me to someone else because technically I was traveling on military orders, and I didn't have receipts for any of this stuff. And they're like, what do we do with this guy?
Yeah, they tell you they're going to tax you on it. You see, that's another thing.
Yeah. Well, back then they didn't, but it was like, well, they asked me, and I said, look, I'm an army dependent. I'm traveling on a military. I mean, I had the copy of the orders. My dad said, make sure you have this when you go through customs. They may ask for it. But and I had these I had like a Walkman, I had a Pioneer actually, and a couple other things. It wasn't like and it wasn't for resale, right? I mean, I had the stuff for years. And but yeah, I mean, try to go through anybody listening in Europe, put an apple in your bag and see if you can make it through customs without that dog finding you. Fruit that they give you on the airplane, do not take it off the airplane. They will nail you with it.
Damn.
In Australia, you got 5 years jail. 5 years jail.
It's just bizarre.
But
see, this is why I stay in America.
Yeah,
I ain't going nowhere.
I don't know where it was precisely, but I crossed the German border. I think it was 81, just after Christmas. I'm not sure if it was 80 or 81. I crossed the border, and just on the other side of the border, bam, there's a group of 6 guys who come out of nowhere with a tank. And they asked for your passport. There was some sort of high alert going on. It was pretty bad. Something was going on that never made the news. And when they saw my Australian passport, they said it's fine. They're looking, and nothing on the news, But there are there are situations, especially in Europe, all the time that you can't have electronics now on the train. But aircraft apparently now have said, "Oh, we've solved the navigation issue of your G3 phones, of having mobile phones on a plane. Who has a G3 phone now, and who even wants one?" But they put all these regulations on, but you can't read the background to them. Getting stopped for electronics in Europe. What's the big deal? But apparently it's because government revenue in Europe is based on these big companies, they don't pay taxes. the only government revenue that Europeans get out of most of these corporations is sales tax. So they don't want people crossing the border to Germany and getting iPhones cheap.
Wow.
Yeah, sales tax is like I think the Memphis store when I lived there in the 80s was 15%.
Oh, well, yeah,
12%?
15, yeah,
12,
12.5% it was in most countries, but there wasn't sales tax in Germany.
Yeah.
That's why we went to Germany. I was in
Yeah.
the Netherlands at the time, and we went over into Germany to buy stuff because no sales tax. Everybody else had sales tax except
That's
for
weird.
Germany.
Yeah, because I know in the 80s Germany did.
don't forget, Germany's invested in Deutsche Bank, BMW, and all that. Germany makes its money by. Germany's a corporate state. They invest in corporations.
Yeah.
Whereas, like Ireland, they make money by being, the tax-free state, supposedly, because all the corporations pay their $3,000 or $4,000 checks. We made $3 billion. No, we made a loss of $3 billion. Here's $1,000 check.
Right.
Because anybody see the thing about the HP scandal? HP, declared this massive loss under Obama, and then all of a sudden it was found out that what they did was all the little HP divisions borrowed money off their profitable divisions. They hide the profits.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that one. I'll have to look that up. Well, hey, I tell you what, speaking of Europe.
Oh, sorry, getting off.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I know. But in Europe, it was a big scandal, that the companies were avoiding tax.
I'm going to have to look that
and
one
then
up.
all of a sudden it's disappeared, and I can't find anything on it. It's like, what's going on in Europe? Because because Sargon's last show, he was
we got y'all worked up, David.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah,
That's
I know.
all right. But speaking of
Sargon.
Europe, let's talk about Battlefield 5, and because it pays to be a girl.
Yeah.
Does it?
I don't.
Well, I mean, anyway,
so.
you want me to start it off?
Go ahead, Tab and Die.
All right, so Battlefield 5, karma's a bitch is what they should call it, because it is happening. Because right now, it's barely 3 weeks old, and right now, if I wanted to buy the game, I could buy it for $39.99 instead of paying the full price.
I think it's cheaper. I think $40 is the $100 edition with all the bells and whistles and some other crap. I think that's the big, and I think you have to have a previous version of Battlefield, but you can get that for like $10 or something crazy.
I don't know about that part, but I just know is that the customers listen. They told them not to buy it. They didn't like it, so they didn't buy it.
Yeah, they did. I did see that headline. I looked it up because I was like, what in the world? Because I kind of was familiar with it, but wasn't sure when I heard about this today. And I was like, oh yeah, one of the game designers says, well, if you don't like it, then don't buy it. And then people were saying, well, okay, we'll take your advice.
Yep. And then look what happened. Now their sales are going. And then what gets me is because before, I think it was like a few days after it was released, I went ahead. I was bored and I looked up the plot or whatever it is, the campaign, the main campaign, and main thing got me was that part where there's one level where you're like a girl and you stop the shipment of heavy water, and I'm like, wait a minute, that is not how it went down, because I remember there was a commando unit that was sent, and then there's a guy, I think his name is American Corgan, he did a video on it where he talks about the whole operation and all about heavy water. And there was no women, not one woman involved really in that whole thing. But they want to change history on us.
Well,
the whole game advertised. Sorry, I'm just saying the whole game they advertised isn't the game that the Quartering streamed the other day. Did you see his video on it?
I have not watched anything recently on him.
Well, he did something on it, but he had the game streaming, and it doesn't look. And I wanted to find out more, so I looked at the official trailer. It's nothing like, what the trailer they have now is nothing like the E3 trailer.
Mm-hmm.
They have commando teams, not a single player.
Yeah.
And they actually managed to fit, if I saw correctly, I think it was a Gundam, his channel. Somebody was doing a video or I think it was that American Corgan again. They actually they managed to fit in the We Was Kang's line in the game.
What?
Because you could play a group of, I think it was Black African French soldiers, and I think he says we are kings, but basically it's supposed to be we was kangs. So they managed to get that in there, and then at the same time, you paid all this money for the game, and it's not even really finished because they're supposed to be releasing more for the campaign.
Yeah,
like,
I thought you only got campaign 1 and 2 out of 5.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
And that's only because they threw in the second one as a bonus and it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me I've got to pay. If I paid full price, I'd have to pay full price every time. No response. What's the DLC price? You go to Steam, on Steam they actually have the DLC for the second DLC, and it's $19.99. So that'll give you some idea of what they're trying to do. Is that they're trying to now they pulled this in the 90s, and there was a lot of backlash in the 90s about download content, and particularly because a lot of people back then didn't even have a modem for their computer, and I forget who it was. Who owned Java back then, wanted to release the first, 93, the first internet computer, everything was download content. And people had a huge backlash then.
Well, Sun owned Java back then.
Yeah, but the thing is, over time, what they've done is they've given us the whole game and they've slowly peeled back. And now people are starting to notice that, wait a minute, I bought a game on Steam. I bought one of the Shadowrun games. It turned out to be 90% DLC. After you bought the original game, every couple of weeks it was downloading. On my computer, eventually ended up taking nearly, all the different installers. They leave their garbage files all over the place. There was half the game was just garbage files, from all the different downloads.
Yeah,
they were downloading all the time. Now, could you imagine, if you had to pay for those DLCs? And that's what they're trying to do now. That's what Battlefield is. Download a DLC? No, that's not free. It's not free add-on.
No, it's not additional content. I mean, I played Battlefield 2 on the PC for quite a while, and there were add-on packs that came out, I don't know, 8-9 months after the game was out. And that game ran for, I want to say, 3 years at least before Battlefield 3 came out. And, there was a thing for tanks. There was additional, you could play as a British forces. They had different maps, and there were updates. Okay. It wasn't, but you would put in but you had to have the base game, but the expansion packs were probably half the price of the original game. And then near the end, they started, coming up with, maybe you pay $60 and you get 2 expansions, so it's a little bit cheaper, because I actually bought the game more than once, and because I would do hotboxing and a bunch of other garbage. But you would have updates from time to time, but it's nothing like now. I mean, my kids have bought games for the Xbox, or my son has a PlayStation. There's Xbox 360, and some games they put them in, and 20 minutes later they're playing. It installs. Maybe there's a small update, and they're off and running. And other ones, it's like all you have on that DVD is a thing to unlock the 4 gigabyte download that you have to go do.
Yeah, some of that
for hours.
Yeah.
And I have a 100 megabit pipe, and it still takes a long time. So, when I see my download is like pinged, I'm like, what the heck's going on? Oh, someone's downloading another 2 gigabyte update.
Wasn't it people? Grand Theft, didn't they have something go wrong with that, where they had, because some of the consoles you get the game, but the PC version it would download stuff all the time, different areas, because it didn't store the whole, because because the PC is so more versatile, they had more material for the game, but everything started becoming download contents from there. But it actually started with Command and Conquer, the mission packs.
Yeah, I played more Age of Empires and Civilization back when Command and Conquer was around.
Age of Civilization had add-ons, but they were free originally. Now you look at Age of Empires is still going, but now it's oh, you got to buy this, you got to buy that. Oh,
Yeah.
you get to level 5 and now you got to unlock. It's ridiculous. But it's because people put up with DLCs and paying for extra content. Originally, it was a good idea because you finish the game. Now what? You have this game that you can't play again because you know how it plays. You got to have new content.
Yeah.
But the original Battlefield, it was a brilliant game because it didn't need DLCs. It was just a slugfest.
Mm-hmm. Just going at it, killing each other, everyone killing each other.
Yeah, you'll spawn on the edge of the battlefield, work your way up again. It didn't matter because you didn't have 1,000 paths. If you lost equipment, it didn't matter because if you died, you knew how to get equipment. It wasn't. Oh, I worked my butt off for 6 months to get the Thompson submachine gun special. In the Commando edition. And this gun's the shittiest piece of crap on earth. Why the fuck did I waste 6 months to get this gun that's worse than the guns that I've picked up along the way?
Right.
And that's what download content has done to Call of Duty. Is that the older, I've absolutely had enough of Call of Duty. You die, you got to start all over, and it's hundreds of paths. You got to go through all the. And now you've got Fortnite. My son's into Fortnite. He loves the game, and it's another slugfest game. But it started with 1,001 paths, and building up stuff and hogging and storing and trading and work. And sometimes you have to work in groups. And you could be he's running along this island and gets sniped from some guy who can't, in a tower a mile away, boom, game over. But because he's a little kid, it doesn't care, he doesn't care about the game so much invested. But you imagine some of these man babies who spent months on this game and now they have to start all over again as soon as they're killed. Because it's one shot, one kill, right? Unless you've got all this armor packs and add-ons but if you start on this, if you start some games now and they've been running for 2 or 3 years, like Guild War, right? Guild War's, I think it's into its 8th year. You try starting now, it'll take you 8 years to get to where some of the current, to get to the new expansions, and then you'll find, and then you go, wait, this game hasn't been developed in 4 years, so. The last expansion was like 4 years ago. But it takes 8 years to play the whole game. That's a good game because, it's so huge. But Call of Duty is just these same islands. And it's what we call a grind, just repeating the same thing over and over again.
Well, I play World of Warcraft. I'm very well familiar with what grinding is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The old bastard.
You still play Warcraft?
Yeah, I'm playing.
Of course he does.
Talking. That's
Jesus,
why I'm letting him.
They still got over 100 million registered users.
Yeah, but let me tell you, the last expansion pack, I didn't pay for anything because I used all in-game gold. But apparently, people have played this expansion and they don't like it, and the auction house is tanking.
Is that the one with the Lich on the front, or because there's 2 expansions that I've seen?
It's the Battle for Azeroth. I'm not sure who's on the front of it.
Yeah, because there's 2 packs.
Yeah.
One's been praised and oh wow, and then one's been what the yeah,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hit or miss, and now the Wrath of the Lich King, which was well before I started playing, was the pinnacle. So that's been years ago.
Yeah,
and it's gone downhill since then, but it's still bigger than the other.
Now, the top, it's still over 100 million people, and which is amazing for a game of its age. Because you take another game like Guild Wars that's I think only 12 million, and it's been going far less. But in the size of physical maps, Warcraft isn't that big, whereas.
Right. Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's not as big as I think it is.
So many people are fit into a smaller map, but then again, they have more servers. So because there's only 100 per server or something, whereas I remember games with far more than that. Now they're talking about, oh, we've got 100 multiplayers, and I'm going like, we had 100 multiplayers back on the back on Linux on Zork, okay?
Zork, oh my gosh, that's really lining the web.
The world of Zork.
Yeah.
Remember the world of Zork? It had 100 multiplayer.
Yeah, I didn't know they did a multiplayer Zork, but when the
it was the world of Zork. It was an exploration thing. I don't think it went anywhere. And this was,
wasn't
I was at uni, so I don't know if the game went beyond the university servers.
Oh, okay. Well, Ultima Online was one of those early ones too, and that's one of those things that the players figured how to break the economy on and destroyed Ultima Online and basically ended up shutting it down. Speaking of which, let's move away from from games and let's move back on to movies. We had a few events this past week. We had some trailers drop. Some are saying the Avengers might be more of a teaser than an actual trailer. We had what is going to be the best movie, I think, of 2019. The Captain Marvel trailer 2 dropped. And I think Frank wanted to say a few words on those.
Yeah. So I saw the new trailer for Avengers Endgame today. And I think it looks pretty good. Because obviously it does. It's an Avengers movie. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely
after this.
Oh, sorry. High quality. Did you notice a change in quality in the Captain Marvel? They use scenes from the first trailer, and you go, well, this looks like 35 millimeter, and then suddenly you got 70 millimeter, and then you suddenly got the IMAX scene, where she's flying up off the planet, off what I think is Earth, into space. And I'm thinking, are they doing the 90s scenes in 90s, style, and the modern scenes in, 70 millimeter, and the space scenes in IMAX? I forget which movie it was, but didn't people rip it apart from changing quality?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but we've got to wonder, was it deliberate or was it just because they shot the trailer that way? Because you look at Solo, it was actually shot in different formats. Justice League, they shot parts in different formats, and that was jarring. And I've got poor eyesight, so I can't. So you people with expert eyes, you can see further than your nose could actually probably notice the difference. When they shift. I
couldn't because I'm blind as fuck. I actually can't see.
I'm near blind, so everything, anything I can see is high quality.
So Frank, what did you like about the trailer?
I don't know. They're carrying on I did like it. I'm just trying to put the words together. It's like
Were you moved to tears like Kevin Smith?
No, because my mom's are firmly attached. Thank you. Disney does not own my sack. But, I like that they're going with the dark tone. Things are still pretty grim, and we see Thanos is still wearing the burnt out glove, the gauntlet, and we see Hawkeye come back. That was cool.
So wait a minute, Thanos is wearing the burnt out glove. What part is that? Is that
the trailer is just all these little short clips mashed together.
Right.
They keep like fading in and out. So
I saw the clip. So what was the who's got the LMP? You got crap on in the background.
Now Thanos has a set of armor in the cornfield. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Apparently that's from Comic 6. So there's a little,
I saw that.
It's one of the 6 Easter eggs. Apparently there's this Easter egg, that nods back to the original comic in the trailer.
Oh, okay. So that's the Scarecrow?
Yeah. It's his armor. He's taken off his armor except for the gauntlet.
Yep. But there's just a real quick shot of him like walking, and the camera's like showing his hand. And
Oh,
still
so
wearing
that like walking in a field of wheat or something, that's Thanos?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Oh,
hot
okay.
corn. It's actually
Corn,
corn
yeah.
where they
Yeah,
build
just
it.
some field. Yeah.
Yeah, LMP, I thought it was you making all that background noise. That's why I muted you. You can unmute yourself because it doesn't seem like it's you. But I can't unmute you. Sorry.
It's just like, oi.
Yeah.
He's probably speaking in Spanish right now.
Well, I
Yeah.
hear all this background noise, and I thought it was him, but
Oh wait, that's my son. He's just entered the room with his iPad.
oh,
Well,
okay.
excuse me, Lape. Jackass.
It's always the
Well, you weren't
Mexican.
saying anything, so I was
Well,
like,
I had to take a break. It wasn't like my stomach wasn't exactly feeling 100%.
oh, well, you
Oh.
didn't say that.
Well,
since
before the
LMP's
show, you
talking.
said there was stuff in your face.
Yeah.
That is true. Someone here, at least someone here pays attention.
It's
Yeah,
all churro diet.
too many burritos,
And
Yeah,
tacos.
Churros. Just nothing but churros.
too many churros in your mouth. You make your stomach not feel good.
sound like an uncle I had once.
Then we killed
Maybe
That
it
him.
does
is.
not surprise
Maybe
me.
Brian is your uncle.
Maybe killed him.
I
on
just
YouTube.
can't remember which one it was. They all sounded the same.
It was Uncle Gringo.
Oh man, Uncle
Jeez.
No, Uncle Gringo was the best. Uncle Gringo at least gave me money and gave me words of wisdom.
That's because Uncle Gringo had a job.
Also, hope Uncle Gringo wasn't in jail or dead.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, back to movies. Did you notice what wasn't in the Infinity War trailer?
The Hulk.
No, Ed,
No,
Banner's
Captain
in
Marvel.
there. Banner's in the trailer.
She was in it. They said
Oh,
she
yeah,
was.
no
Captain
Captain
Marvel
Marvel
wasn't in there, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they,
That's the first thing I noticed.
yeah, the no Hulk. Yep, we were told the Hulk's in it, but we were told that they redid some of the movie, and yet the trailer looks like it was shot as one piece, which was weird because I thought Marvel actually took clips, but they went the Disney route. They made a trailer. That was
Ooh.
I don't know. Parts of it looked the part where she says to Captain America, whatever his name is, this is going to work. I think that's near the end of the
Yep.
second act. I think
That's
the rest of it's in the
time
first act, but I think that part is in the second act.
I think they let loose that it was a time jump in there, and I think that's Willie's work is where they activate the time machine.
Yeah, because I think the thing with Hawkeye, I think it's the beginning of the second act. I think Ant-Man's going to
That's
show up very
first
early.
act. No, I think it's first act. I think
Because her
the first
hair's
part-
different. Her hair's slightly different. It's a little darker.
Yeah, but I think the first part of the movie is they're getting a gang back together. The aftermath, finding out who's alive. Because they're all in separate places. Then there's going to be the rescue of Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be the how do we confront Thanos? They've got to locate him, and I think that's where they go to Doctor Strange's place,
Oh.
and that's where that portal thingy is. That's how they get to
you
it.
mean Captain Marvel's just not going to just show up and snap her clit and everything's going to go back to normal?
No, the thing that's
Yes.
missing is Marvel and Nebula. What they do, where they're part, other than
Yeah.
showing that
Yeah.
Nebula's in it, it's the
was
key to
wondering
the
about
story
Nebula.
is the two keys that we're being told about is Nebula and Captain Marvel, and we've only been showing us that Nebula's with Tony, so there has to be a rescue scene.
Well, Nebula's in the ship. I don't know, right? That's where she's kind of pauses in the doorway and touches a
She's-
panel.
Yeah,
Right.
and if you saw the behind the scenes sneaker trailer where she's touching the panel, she's on a green screen, Tony's sitting beside her. So we obviously know she's the one. When that scene where you see a hand go on the shoulder, that's either somebody putting their hand on Tony's shoulder and pulling him out of the ship, or it's Nebula and she's ejecting them out of the ship.
And that's Karen Gillian's character, right?
Thanks. I was going, what's the cast again?
I'm sorry, but the Guardians movies Karen Gillian's in them. I know she's a blue alien or something, but I'm
Yeah.
sorry. She's still cute.
Now, other movie news
You like bald chick?
is sort of old, and it sort of does involve Captain America. Is that he was tossing up between doing the Star Trek movie and renewing Captain America. Now he's walked away from Star Trek, and Star Trek 4 has collapsed.
Good.
They're now looking to try and do it as a $100 million movie with a female director, and they're not with money from China. But they haven't got Captain Kirk. They haven't got Captain Kirk's father. They haven't got the Admiral. They haven't got and of course there's 2 cast deaths.
Really?
So
Who died?
Cho? Was it Cho and Chekhov are gone?
Chekhov died.
We know
Really?
Chekhov died, but somebody said there was another cast death the other day, and I'm trying to find it.
I did not know that.
You didn't know
those movies
the
were
Russian
all
guy.
horrible. I saw the first 2, and that was
The
like
Russian guy was, I don't know what he did, but he's parked his SUV, got out, gone around the back.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right. And it pinned him against the building or something, right?
And yeah,
That's right. That's right. I did know that.
That's
but
Hey,
they all
guys.
You
thought
forgot
it was
about that?
Guys, something just came up. I gotta go.
Oh, sorry,
Sorry.
man.
It's
Sorry.
okay. It's not too late.
no.
Bye.
Okay,
Finally, the asshole's
I'm feeling
gone.
my dragon's milk quite a bit.
man.
So
it's sort of dragging out to a long story, but Star Trek 4's collapsed, and everybody thought, oh, Steve, he'll come back. He's not doing Captain America. But no, there's Thor. There's a Thor spin-off that's been announced. There's possibly Captain America might be in it, and he might be doing a Captain America TV series. This is all Disney Prime.
Oh.
And that's why all the Netflix stuff is going over, because Disney's putting Disney Prime on Hulu. So you're going to have Hulu Prime, and Disney Prime. Apparently, the guy paying Captain America left. I think it was a $6 million paycheck for one movie to do a TV series. Now, obviously, the paycheck is either higher or the money's guaranteed from Disney, whereas Star Trek is, this is only if the movie does it's $250 million. Now, Star Trek's only done that once or twice, so there's no guarantee he'll get the full 6, right? So you take the TV series, at least Disney's going to pay you a few million.
Wow.
Interesting.
I completely forgot about Disney having its own streaming service.
Well, see, streaming services were undercut Blockbuster, right? They said Blockbuster couldn't compete. Now, could you imagine? You think Blockbuster's prices were bad? Well, imagine trying to get 6 streaming services. When there was one, when it was 1 or 2, it was fine. Now there's 6. And CBS is going to die. CBS is going to be the first to go. I mean, what have they got?
Yeah, that
What has
shit show.
ABC got? What has ABC got? And apparently Disney's picking up some shows that the others have lost. So not only Netflix is going to be in the middle, AMC is going to lose its prime spot to Hulu. Wow. Netflix is going to die because the more stuff they lose, And once Game of Thrones over, what has AMC got? The Walking Dead. That shows literally The Walking Dead.
Oh wait, you mean Game of Thrones? Isn't that HBO?
HBO's making it, but AMC have got their finger in the pie, sort of.
Oh.
I don't know how it works, but ANC to stay afloat has made investments in others to stay afloat because their only profit was their 6% refund from Georgia. Filming.
Yeah.
Remember when I said way back all these companies are making their profit from city funds, and somebody said, "Oh, there's no more Detroit money." Well, that's true. Georgia's and Michigan have picked up that slack, and now they're filling the pinch really fast, faster than before. Because again, remember, it all comes back to this 0% money that we can't get.
Yeah.
But ANC, what have they got after Walking Dead? You know, the Walking Dead spin-off is dying, and everybody just wants to know, where did the virus come from? People are tuning in for the first couple of minutes and then tuning out, because you know how streaming services, they've got the bandwidth measurement.
Yeah.
So they know.
I think Netflix did something a while ago too, that they had to change they had to get a change with their licensing, because people were like watching something for like less than 2 minutes and deciding they didn't want it, and they were having to pay a license for that. As someone watched the whole thing, and then they had to change how there's like some minimum amount of stuff. And that was one of the things that I remember when Netflix spun off years ago. They tried to change, because I had Netflix as right. I had a DVD stuff before I had the streaming, and people were yelling at Netflix when they tried to spin that off. And it's like, it's not Netflix. It's the licensing to this nonsense. Sony in particular. Sony is one of the biggest culprits of the I'm surprised there's not a Sony streaming service, and hasn't been. But it sounds like right. It's like now the content creators are like saying, hey, let's just do our own streaming service, because they were really screwing over Netflix for a while. I used to get, this is an example from several years ago. I brought this up more than once, but I used to watch Spartacus and some other stuff that was on Stars, and everything was fine until my Xbox finally had Xbox 360, got an update, and it had a Netflix streaming app. And the second, because that's back when you had to register all your apps, not just log in. You had to register and go in and say I approve and get a code and a bunch of other garbage. The second I did that, everything from Stars was gone, because Sony didn't want PlayStation people to see Stars content. And I think you're right, David. In some ways, we're going to end up and Jeff's brought this up too. We're going to with 97 different streaming services. Well, not that many, but every vendor is going to have their own streaming service. They've put they put STD behind a wall that no one watches. Cable companies are dead. Cable, satellite TV, all that's pretty much dead. It's a dying breed. But we're going to get what we had in the early days of cable, when every city had 15 cable companies. And then they had a monopoly, because that was just too unsightly. And, I have Amazon Prime. I don't have Hulu, and I have Netflix. And it's barely, I can barely justify Netflix, because we don't hardly watch anything. Amazon's not so bad, because it's tied into free shipping and some other crap that I can justify.
Plus, their content is now, plus with the failure of some of the other streamers like AMC, Amazon is picking up its content quality.
Right. But, I like the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. The season 2's come out. I got to watch it. The Tick was awesome.
Finally, something you like, right?
Yeah. And then like the stuff on Netflix, like Arrow and Flash, I mean, I see those seasons when they're done. Back in the early, when Netflix was early streaming, Heroes would be on NBC. I don't know what night it was on. I don't know. Say it's a Monday night. I don't remember what night. But I used to watch it, yeah. And the next day I could watch it on Netflix. Okay, yeah. Commercial free. Granted, I had to wait a day. Now I got to wait a whole season. And at some point, this stuff is going to be behind the WB streaming service. Now, granted, some of these shows I watch, I don't watch them all at once. I don't, I used to binge watch Archer all the time until, I don't know when they. I didn't even know.
They've watched Archer.
Yeah, I don't know what the latest. Well, I haven't seen it in a long time, because I don't think it's on Netflix anymore.
No, what happened? Yeah, what happened? It went to season 8. Then there was a year hiatus. Then 9 came out so sporadic that I don't even know if they finished.
Which season was it that he was a robot at the end?
I think that was 8.
Okay, that's the last one I've seen, and it was a very short season.
Wait, you mean
season 8?
Wait, that was season. Wait, where Archer was a robot? You're talking about?
Yeah, that's how it is.
That was 7, the Dreamland one.
Oh, right, 7.
Or
I
what? Not
haven't seen
7.
anything since then.
The one I think,
7
yeah, it
or
was
8.
7 because they were PIs or whatever, and
Yeah, he gets shot and he falls in the pool.
mhm.
They show 10 seasons on IMDb.
Really?
Yeah, but-
Ben?
Yeah, but that's the you look at the dates though. They're each over a year long. They did, you know, it was actually released over a long period of time. But when it started to repeat, you could binge watch it, you know, on streaming services, and it's jumped around a few times.
Yeah. See, season 9 is only
6. Is it 6 episodes?
1,
7?
2, 3, 4, 8.
8.
And
Man, they
the
can shorten
13th of June 2008 was when that last one came out. So season 10 is I guess it's all next year. It's supposed to be 8 episodes, but they don't have anything on IMDb about it. So I haven't seen season 8 at all, and I may have to look because it's Dreamland. Season 8 is the Dreamland.
Dreamland. Yeah, you're not
But I
missing much.
still, and it's not only the way they draw her, but Judy is also pretty.
Yeah,
cute.
and that's what 2 years old now. So 8 should be nearly 2 years old, I think.
2017.
Yeah. And it took
Damn.
2 years to put out season 9, even though it's short. I don't know what's wrong. Archer was cruising along. Same with the Space Ghost show. It was cruising along. It had a solid audience. I don't know why Netflix would mess with any show that was actually drawing in the crowd, because that's the revenue.
Yeah.
The crowd is the revenue.
I want to say Archer was on FX or something at first, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I think it's like FX2 now or something like that. There's the channel.
Well, I don't have actual. We don't have we don't have cable. We don't have satellite. So if it's not available on the internet, I don't know about it.
No, I didn't. I know that it was on FX, and then Tabitha read about FX too, but I wasn't aware of the other thing that you guys were talking about.
And
Which
there goes
other thing?
Kellogg.
She's on the background.
Yep.
Yes, I know, and I'm buzzing pretty hard.
Kellogg's.
I had Dragon's Milk.
Smash Brothers.
I had 22 ounces of Dragon's Milk, 11%.
I'll take that as a no. I would school your
What?
sorry ass.
She's playing something, I think. Hey,
Now it comes back to dumb
What are you playing?
business decisions.
She's playing Overwatch.
Oh,
Of course.
Stay on. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Kick her ass.
Anyway, what were we talking about? Archer, right?
Well, sort of comes down to dumb business decisions.
We started with the Avengers trailer, and somehow we've gotten to Archer. So
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I want to hear this real quick.
Oh, no. I brought up the subject of, all the actors who've dumped movies and going over to streaming services and TV shows because it's a regular paycheck.
Yeah.
That's true.
Speaking of the streaming service, what's up with Netflix and all these damn original shows and contents? That's what's pissing me off. I'm glad I don't pay for it. I borrow somebody's. But,
well,
this stuff
because they know that new content they're not going to get. Stuff that they have, and they just paid, I think I saw this past week, they paid $100 million for the licensing for Friends. Netflix did, to keep Netflix, to keep Friends as an exclusive. They know with Disney coming out with their own streaming service, it's just a matter of time. Warner Brothers is going to do it.
Warner Brothers already announced it.
Right. And their content is going to evaporate. Other than, DVD. I mean, I still get, but now granted, I'm down to 1 at a time. I used to be 3 at a time.
Now, apparently, yeah, but speaking of streaming services, Disney is selling some of its Fox assets already.
Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised by that.
So FX may come up for grabs again back to Netflix. Because FX or FX2 has some of Marvel that has Fox Marvel on it. What's left of Fox Marvel.
What little is
That's one of the X-Men talking about. I just can't remember which one.
What was it called?
Yeah.
What was it called?
It's that guy who's got multiple personalities.
Oh, Legion.
Legion, yeah.
See,
because that's coming up soon. that's soon due for broadcast, isn't it? Again, or starting January or February, isn't it?
I have no idea. Be honest with you, I barely watch these things anymore.
No. I get it for binge too because I'm not going to pay for a streaming service.
I'm just sick and tired of having to pay for multiple streaming services. It's already bad enough.
I buy DVDs.
That's what Netflix originally
I'll tell you
was.
what I bought recently later.
Yeah, that's originally the whole idea behind Netflix. You know, they were competing against Blockbuster. You could get the shows cheaper. You could watch it straight away, and you had multiple sources. You didn't have to. If not, you didn't have to worry about going to Blockbuster and finding out that the guy down the road had the movie. You know, that's when there was competition. See, that was the downside of competition, is that if you only had a Blockbuster in your area, you could only watch Blockbuster movies because people didn't want to drive. You know, especially in Australia where you got distances to rent a different movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Kellogg, shut up.
She can't hear you. You're gonna have to get on Overwatch and yell at her.
Yeah.
All right.
But now there's too many.
Guys.
Well, see, Archer. I'm looking at Netflix right now, and I'm trying to flip to the DVD section. It's real slow. Archer is no longer on streaming on Netflix. That's why I've not seen.
Damn. Yeah.
Is it on
Netflix.
Amazon?
It might
It's
be
only on Hulu. I know. It's on Hulu.
I've been getting my King of the Hill fix on Hulu lately, and it's been fantastic.
I know, right? Because I've been watching.
Now, do you guys have a digital guarantee? Because we have a thing on our free-to-air system, right, called digital television, which is digital, right? You have a digital set-top box, 99 channels, right? But there are free to air. There's a guarantee, right? You know, all these streaming services have their shows, but eventually it has to go to free-to-air in Australia. Do you have any guarantees like that in the States?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't have anything like that.
No.
Brian?
Because I know Europe is trying to actually get rid of it. Get rid of that free to air.
Only if it's on network television, I think. Yeah. So Archer season 8. I'd have to buy Archer season 8 to stream.
To stream
it's
it.
$3 an episode.
All right. Sorry to interrupt you, but good news. If you do have Hulu, Archer is on Hulu up to season 8.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So yes, there is
once season 10. Watch. When season 10 starts, then season 9 will appear on Hulu. That's how it usually works.
Yeah. I'm surprised. Why don't they just put on the more recent season already?
I don't know. Because they're assholes.
Yeah. Well, everybody's an asshole, and I guess
everyone's got one.
They do that with every popular show. Come on, guys. That CBS was hoping that Star Trek would be popular. That's why they put it behind the paywall first. But you look at every show. They're Disney, everything's disappearing off Netflix. All the others, they're all disappearing behind paywalls already on a subscription service. Now, we had that in Australia when pay TV first came out. You know, pay TV first came out the first year. You pay $12 a month and you get, again, 99 channels because that's how many channels the set-top box can handle. And Foxtel put out, which is a subsidiary of Fox and our telephone company. It's not owned exclusive by Fox. But these companies, they put out a lot of content in their first year, right? But then the next 3 years was all the same, and all the good and all the new shows was behind the paywall on pay-per-view. So 90% of the content was on one channel, which you could only watch once. It sounds like the same thing's happening all over again. You start off with 99 channels, you could watch what you want, then suddenly it all splits up, and now you got the big corporations each wanting to have their own paywall.
Basically, it's the same shit with different medium.
Yeah, it's like they experimented here, found out what works, and now they're trying to export it to the States. How much you could push pay television before people will break and go to the internet.
I know. Guys, I'm gonna call it a night right now because I gotta get up in the morning and got another day of work.
Overwatch.
Yeah,
but it's
go
been
kick
fun
Kellogg's
chatting.
ass.
Nah,
So
it's been
you're
fun
telling us,
chatting, David,
you're telling me
especially.
you're getting ready
You
to.
know, we talked before, but definitely great talking to you in real life.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're not going to do the Godzilla roundtable again.
Well,
Oh
Frank's
no,
not
because
here.
the guy
So.
who proposed it left, so it wouldn't be right. So
Yeah.
2
Hey,
days
when is that movie
in
coming
a
out?
row it happened. I think it's a cursed segment. Let's never do it again.
All right. Fair enough.
When's that movie coming out? They've advertised it now for a year. The new Godzilla or whatever it is, Mothra or whatever. They keep changing. It keeps changing. You know where all the monsters fight, Godzilla and
Kingdom of the Monsters, whatever. The new one or whatever.
Yeah.
When is it
I'm
come?
not sure.
Next year. Hold on.
It's still next year. It's been next year for a year.
That's all this. Okay, May 31st.
It's like David. It's like the sign, free ice cream tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's always tomorrow.
Anyways, good night, guys.
Good night,
All right,
LMP.
LMP.
That's the curse of a good movie. You know, they kill it. You know, Game of Thrones. Half the people have already, you know how they signed up people for the series, to the streaming service. They've lost people by not releasing this. They've shot half of the season. People have been waiting for over a year, and it's supposed to be out already, and it isn't. They've lost that. Their audience is gone. You know, half your audience goes. There's your profit gone. You know, it's pay.
Yeah.
It's pay per view. It's pay per view. It comes out on pay per view first. If you lose half your customers to other streaming services, there goes your profit. You're not going to sell season 6 DVD for $139.
Yep.
All right, we got anything else to talk about now? Now that 2/3 of us have left.
Not really. I mean, because the other thing was going to be that Spider-Man thing, but that was Frank's thing too.
Yeah.
And
What is the Spider-Man thing?
Well, apparently Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be in the new Spider-Man movie, Far From Home or something. The new Spider-Man. Yeah.
Spider-Verse. Is that a bit Spider-Verse? Because Spider-Verse has got 6 slated movies. That's not including
sure.
Venom.
He didn't say. He just told me that
he's in one of them.
Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be in there. Yeah, pretty much. Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be a character in the Spider-Man movie. And he was going to talk about it, so I really didn't look into it. I figured he was going to be the one to talk about it.
Okay. Because I'm like, I don't understand why I even care.
Well,
you should care.
Apparently, Spider-Verse is rating better than Aquaman. So, again, DC failed, you know?
Well, what are we talking about? That new Miles Morales cartoon nonsense, or
that's what he's asking you if it's that. But like I said, I didn't know.
No. Yeah, because the Spider-Verse has a cartoon, it has 2 live-action movies, and it has 6 more coming up. 6 more live actions.
So this is competing with the Homecoming
DC
movies.
No, they're going to interweave. So there's going to be a Homecoming movie and then a Spider-Verse movie. They're not going to be out at the same time, and they're going to be 6 months apart. But what everybody is thinking is that the Spider-Verse is going to knock DC off second place.
Oh yeah,
because there is only second place at the moment.
Right. Well, what's his nut still Spider-Man in both of them?
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Tom Holland is slated to appear in a 3rd movie, but they're not saying if it's Marvel or Sony. But because at the moment Sony's making its Marvel money off licensing characters to Marvel.
Right. Because the Amazing Spider-Man was so awesome.
That's right. It's just so awesome. We licensed the character to you.
They licensed it to someone who knows what they're doing.
Well, you look at some of the early Sony movies, you definitely can say, holy cow, they have improved. But that's not saying much, is it? But the Venom has showed quality and signs that they actually do know how to hire writers who know a little bit more about story than let's copy and paste from the last movie.
Yeah.
I
didn't see that one yet.
But the biggest thing is Warner Brothers has gone from making billion-dollar movies from $100 million budgets to spending $400 million to make $500 million.
Right.
Not a formula for success.
No.
And yet, what did they do? They promoted Zack Snyder to the executive board of production.
Maybe just get him out of the way. Promote him up so he's not in the way, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. It's like, I don't think they're going to ask J.K. Rowling to write another movie again either.
Did she write one?
She's written a few for them, and she's written a few other things too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Crimes of Grindelwald, I don't know whether it was a collaboration or how many, because this is always the question with her. How much of her own material did she write? I mean, she was a manager for Amnesty for a long time and left that off her bio and said she put down she was homeless. Well, she wasn't. 3 months I didn't have a flat in London. That's not homelessness, all right? Not having a flat in London is not homelessness. Having to live in, I forget the name of the suburb, but she lived in some suburb with somebody, so she wasn't homeless.
Right. Did she write like the Harry Potter movies and stuff, or what? I mean,
okay, the rumor, and which people have lost their jobs over at Warner Brothers, is that she wrote the first book, and it was pitched by Oprah. Not by J.K. Rowling, it was pitched by Oprah. And Oprah wanted all this money. But somewhere along the line, they gave it to J.K. Rowling, and the movie started getting made. And then she's a sudden billionaire. Now, that's because she did the smartest thing in the world, and that is, instead of collecting the first paycheck, which was probably only $100 million, she funded the second movie.
Oh.
That's only a rumor, but that's what made her money. Wasn't the book sales. Like I said before, when Borders shut down, they had all these copies of Harry Potter that were marked as book. And having experience as a writer, I know once a book is sold to a distributor, that's counted as a book sale.
Oh yeah.
So
a
lot of her book sales weren't to public; it was to Borders.
Yeah. Well, once the publisher sold the book, it don't care if it's a public, has bought it or a wholesaler's bought it.
It doesn't matter if it goes to the 99-cent bin, as long as it didn't go to the 99-cent bin when it left the publisher's hands.
Right. The publisher wasn't, trying to get rid of them at 50 cents on the dollar. They don't care that the wholesaler or retailer does.
Yeah, and the thing that started the rumor about J.K. Rowling not writing her own books is when she didn't know the motivations of Voldemort.
Oh. Yeah. His
motivations are clear from the beginning.
Yeah.
He spells them out. Horcrux. He only has one use, buddy, to live forever, to anchor your soul to earth, or whatever it is. It's an anchor.
Right. I mean, I've not read any of the books. I'm not seeing the movies.
When
I've heard her speak, she doesn't come across.
Was a pothead.
Yeah, she does not come across to me as an author. When I grew up with the Lord of the Rings, right? And read the
Nerd.
Hobbit. Oh, shut up. And when I see interviews with Tolkien, or when Tolkien's talking about his characters, he's created volumes of crap that has never. And I know Christopher put a lot of his notes together and came up with the Lost Tales and all that. There's probably scraps of paper that Christopher's still sitting on that are, the beginnings of an idea for 6 more volumes. There's probably hundreds of those.
No, he wrote 28 books worth of material from which he cherry-picked The Hobbit.
Yeah. Well, he created alphabets and the geography and the history. Of all the races. And so when I hear J.K. Rowling's talking, I'm like, now it makes sense when you say that the rumor, and I know it's a rumor, that she may or may not have written.
You got the air quotes up. It's a rumor.
It makes sense.
Yeah. People lost their job in the script. Look, Warner Brothers have vanquished their script department basically. Look at all the. But the thing is, anybody's seen 30 Rock? It's a comedy about writing, and they constantly talk about writing teams.
Right.
As a writer, I've been approached by people who says, we'll ghostwrite your book and put your name on it. And it is lock solid guaranteed that they will never come out and say, we wrote your book. $1 million guarantee that they broke silence. So there is, and there was Joan Collins. There was a lot of people who in the 90s who were all almost exposed by the big scandal in Hollywood. That they were outsiders were writing the books, like, even. And it sort of gained fame for some writers. Like, I'm trying to think of the woman who wrote Twilight. She got famous for being outed as a ghostwriter or something. She started as a Straczynski, who did Babylon 5. He was a script writer and a ghostwriter.
Yeah.
Now, if there's all these ghostwriters out there, they have to be writing for somebody, and it's not me. Okay.
Well, you remember Shatner's. You remember Shatner wrote books. Yeah, and his ghostwriter came out and said, because apparently Shatner had some of the ideas, and this is what I understand. He had some of the overall ideas, but he didn't write most of it.
That's the thing. When you hire a ghostwriter, you don't just pay the ghostwriter. You got to pay royalties.
Yeah.
You got to pay royalties.
What was that, the Shatner series? Because they made it a TV show.
It didn't last long, but yeah, it was Tech.
Tech, yeah.
And it was a ripoff of BTL from, what was it, Red Dwarf, Better Than Life. It was a ripoff of Better Than Life. Right. That's why it went nowhere very fast, because Naylor got $1 million out of that one.
Right. Yeah, it was best when it was stated and when it was a series of books and people didn't put it together, and then when it was
until the third or fourth book, and then didn't put it together. Shatner didn't write it when Shatner was doing a TV series at the time, and they asked him how his book was going, and he goes, "What book?" Oops. You don't answer with a question.
Well, you mentioned back in the 90s, so you had Joan Collins, you had some other of the
big writers at the time.
Well, you had some trash novels, the romance novels,
and they weren't selling either. They were counting their sales to Borders and all that.
But Fabio supposedly wrote a few too, and there's no way in hell he wrote any of those books.
What, a guy who can't string two words of English together in a sentence wrote a book? Yeah, I can believe that.
Yeah. Or I should say Fabio. He had the fabulous hair. Fabio. I mean, he was a model on the cover of the books, and all of a sudden he's writing one. Yeah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, and also there was that Elizabeth Taylor book.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, she's dead. It was just bad time. And then there was the biography of Michael Jackson. Again, people didn't put it together until a few years later. Wait a minute. Because, without the internet, without that instant, people in the late 90s, there was no instant information.
Mm-hmm.
So people just thought, they've died, the book comes out. But wait a minute. Who wrote the book? When was it written? People don't. I don't know what's wrong with most people. Whether or not they just accept whatever's presented to them, or they have no care factor. But it really doesn't matter sometimes. But it matters to the authenticity of a biography. If the person who it's about has died, and then the book comes out.
Hold on, let me do. Kellogg, shut up.
And I have my mic. My mic is single solenoid, so it's actually aimed at me.
I didn't realize, because I can't hear it. I don't hear my mic. Okay, I only hear I only hear your broadcast. So there's a delay. So when my son came in with his iPad, I didn't hear it.
Well, what's sad is I hear my mic, so I have my level turned up so that I know if I'm too loud, because when I'm recording stuff, but I don't hear her. I mean, I hear her over my headphones, but I don't.
That's what I mean. I didn't hear him, and then so I didn't put it together that he was the feedback.
And I got a dog under my desk that's farting to kill people. It is unbelievable. And this happens every night. This is the puppy. After I'll let him out, I will stay outside for 40 frickin' minutes in the frickin' cold. We've had snow the last couple days, and he's a German Shepherd, Australian Shepherd mix. He's a beautiful dog, but he loves the cold. He won't come in. I'll leave him out there for half an hour. I'll come down here. I'll try to finish up stuff that I'm working on, and he'll start farting. And it, God,
Kelpie. That's a Kelpie, all right. Any red meat, they only have to smell red meat and they start farting.
Yeah, and he I mean, beautiful dog, brown and white coloring.
Well, Kelpie's a sort of bluish, whitish cross.
Yeah.
Now, I was researching for my book, The Elves, and I know a lot of people find it bizarre or conspiratorial, but I sort of do believe that they were real people at one point. And then around the because why would they pass a law in the 12th century that ended up in, the Dark Ages was burning books, right?
Right.
How many people know it was to burn books about elves? Not many. It was actually a law passed. It's a law in Vatican, okay? The demonization of elves came about in the 14th century and led to the creation of the vampire myth. Now, how this has to do with dogs is when I was researching the elves used to have these dogs, and they sort of reminded me of the Kelpie, except they were huge, and they had the white spots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, sort of the Kelpie sort of represents that mythological dog, and a lot of the myths do have, I found, do have to do actually with elves and the Vikings. The boy and his dog. You ever heard of Viking tales like that? The boy and his dog, goes out and saved by the dog.
Right.
The whole story.
I only know the movie A Boy and His Dog.
Yeah, but the Lassie mythos comes from this 5,000-year-old story about this boy who falls into a well and is dragged out by his dog. And the Kelpie is actually a descendant of these ancient dogs, that were brought over here to Australia. And they sort of interbred into this one.
So is the Kelpie, is that the Australian Shepherd? Is that what?
Yeah, that's the blue and dog with the white spots. But the elven dog was this big brown shaggy thing with white spots.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, it's a myth. Yeah, but you've got a 5,000-year-old myth, right, that still translates today, and the dog just happens to have white spots. That's what That's my point. Is that if you can get that sort of, if the myth hold true, then there has to be some truth to them. If you could say, here's this myth about a dog who drove people out well, and then if you look at some of the tales about the Kelpie and about dragging a baby out of a fire or whatever, or okay. The dingo ate my baby. Nobody brought that one up, but that's not a Kelpie.
There you go. Maybe the dingo ate your baby. That was Seinfeld.
Yeah,
the dingo ate your baby. That's based on something true.
Well, it is. It's something nobody wanted to admit because it was going to destroy tourism. So they tried to sweep the case under the rug and tried to do all sorts of things. They just didn't want to admit the fact that wild dogs are vicious wild dogs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wild animals are wild.
But the Kelpie, his infamy is that bloody, he's cute as all fuck, but that farting is notorious. They are notorious for it.
Well, now I know why this dog farts so much.
But they are.
Because of the elves.
No. But the thing is, that's what I'm saying. The elves had the dogs that this great European hound, which the Kelpie is a descendant of the European hound, all right? And then you go, wait a minute, the Kelpie's got bloody white spots. But
amazing.
And the story of the witch's cat, that's actually about elves. And the witch's cat is a real fucking cat. I used to have one. The breed costs like $1,000. All right.
Wow.
And I used to have a European wildcat, and they cost far more, you know. And this, cats are expensive. Got out of owning expensive cats. Well, you breed them, you see, you can sell a kitten, sell a kitten for $1,000. So, yay, happy days! Not.
Shit, I think I'm gonna start breeding cats now.
Yeah, well, I lived on a farm, so we had.
I'm gonna
lots
say
of
they're
land.
elf cats.
Well, that's the thing. If you look up the witch's cat, it's a real thing. It's a black cat with a white spot on its chest, and this is a breed that goes back thousands of years. Same with the European wildcat. It's a breed that goes back thousands of years.
Hey, Lib, you were there thousands of years ago. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, good God.
The oldest incel.
It was the best
Obviously
of
had
times.
cats.
It was the worst of times.
Yeah, he was an incel, so he obviously had cats.
Hey, yeah. So, freaking World War II starting to make sense now because of Late being an incel. Probably all wars.
That's right.
Actually, that is right. When the population of young males who don't have wives are on the loose, wars tend to happen. When the population of I forget what it was. Somebody actually did a video on it.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it was Prager. You did a video on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Prager or with one of his interviews he did with he does never really does interviews on his own because he's either on Alex Jones or he's on Dave Rubin or I forget Stephen Crowder.
Oh, okay,
He's never doing the video on his own where he brings things up anymore because he's had his own channel. I think he's back to the demonetized status. I think he's back on with but he can't get any more advertising revenue. Right. But he was. Then it goes back to it's not about politics, okay? Because PragerU is not exactly. I don't think they're huge Trump fans.
No, and it's straight. It's straight history. It's just facts. It's not. Here's the facts, and here's how you better think about them. It's like this is what happened, and this is what has.
I used to watch the History Channel, and they were very far out there with history until Google
the aliens.
took over YouTube. No, they did everything where it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. They presented this perspective that there is this belief about aliens, and it's not modern. Okay, ancients believed in aliens. That's what the Ancient Alien series was all about: beliefs, not whether or not something was factual. They presented it as this is what people believe. Do you think aliens myths didn't start in the 80s or 70s or 50s or 60s or even the 50s? They started not even in the 1850s. They started in the 5s, in the 6000 BC. There's Egyptian drawings of spaceships.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a this is not a demigration of Islam, but there are books in Islam that talk about jinn and ancient beings and all sorts of things that really either point to a second or third existence before of what we know prehistory. There's a huge gap between 20 million years and 2,000 years, of history. We have very detailed history about the last 100 years. We have scant history about the last 2,000 years. We have almost nothing about the 200,000 years before that. And then all of a sudden they want to talk about mankind being walking around 20 million years ago. Yeah. Okay, in 2,000 years, what have we achieved?
Yeah.
Pornhub.
So you're telling me for 20 million years, humans achieved nothing?
All right. Well,
and look how many times we've come close to destruction. And I don't mean man-made destruction either. I'm talking about a meteorite that passes over 100,000 kilometers of the Earth and taking 2 seconds off our calendar. We got pushed 2 seconds ahead of time. We got pushed. However, comet comes that close and pushes the planet. What happens if it comes directly behind us? Or if it was closer?
Right.
Sometimes.
And a lot of those comments, we don't they don't find out, NASA will say, they see it as it's gone away, and they'll say, they'll see this comet,
that's right.
Right, this asteroid, and then they'll start backtracking, and they'll realize this thing can't pass between the Earth and the Moon, and we didn't even know.
Yeah, and then they check the astrological position of the planet and go, holy fuck, we just lost 2 seconds. We moved 2 seconds ahead.
Well,
there's a phenomenon in time, okay? There's a phenomenon in time. You've heard of temporal dilation, right?
Well, I don't know if Tap and Die has, but I have. But,
I think I've heard the word, but I don't know much about it.
I also drunkenly talk about, finite state machines, and that the
vending
quantum,
machines again.
Quantum autonoma is a finite state machine, in a non-deterministic infinite state machine.
Okay,
because we can't go backwards. We go forward, fine, but going backward, we don't have the state.
No,
so we don't know where we came from.
We can move to, but the quantum state specifically says we can move to near zero, but we cannot pass absolute. That means we cannot go backwards in time. That's an absolute. They're saying this has been proven with gravity and electron tunneling. They've slowed down time to where an absolute, they can witness quantum states. Okay? You imagine something that's moving 1 million times a second, and you slow that, that's an electron. Now, what's happened is CERN had to shut down and restart. It cost them millions of dollars just to do it, right? So there is stuff they're still not telling us about these experiments. But wait a minute. You said gravitons are theoretical. Then how can you observe the quantum state if the only thing known to affect time is gravity?
Right.
And the only way to artificially create gravity is to change the quantum state of a graviton.
They changed the gravitational constant of the universe. I mean, we dealt that with Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I think that's why Neil deGrasse Tyson is under attack, because he said quite categorically 2 weeks ago, I forget which channel he was on, he was talking about, I think it was Joe Rogan, he was talking about the universe, and he said, we did these experiments with antimatter and all this, and we found out there's only 5 particles. When they're talking about CERN making antimatter, okay, CERN specifically says they don't create antimatter. Now their site doesn't have it anymore, but I looked at it, and they made enough antimatter just to warm a cup of. And when they did it, right, they thought there was going to be this huge, antimatter was going to solve the world's energy problem. They couldn't warm a cup of tea with 1 kilogram of antimatter. But I theorize. I theorize the destruction matter.
Yeah,
it only produces a quanta of X-rays. You're talking about a destruction of atoms.
Right, because I was going to say, if they introduced it with matter, so they did to destroy it, but it didn't produce enough heat.
Yeah, it didn't produce enough heat. It produced lots of other stuff, but it didn't produce enough heat to warm water. It didn't produce the results that fit our technology. But I have the theory, and this goes back to what's called a kinetic battery.
Right.
That's the spinning, most people know it as the flywheel.
Right.
When you spin it to, I think it's past 14 meters per second round, okay, it starts to gain quantum energy.
Right.
So when you try to stop that flywheel, and what happens? You get a kick, right? Even before you touch it. That quantum state is on the edge, right? Your gravitation, you have enough magnetics in your body or enough iron to be repelled. And they're using it in what's called energy capture devices now to power hybrid engines. When you've heard of braking horsepower flywheels?
Mm-hmm.
These kinetic batteries date back to the 1800s. Now, I think the antimatter would be perfect flywheel because you can store it at absolute zero and it doesn't change quantum state, and you could feed it off that kinetic energy for probably thousands of years before it slows down because it's a flywheel. That's what it is.
So it's it's going to maintain state during that period. Now, are you capturing that antimatter, I guess, in a magnetic field?
Yeah, you're capturing it in what's called a infinite loop bottle.
Okay.
It's moving inside that bottle.
Right.
And it's spinning the gravitational field. That's your flywheel, the spinning gravitational field.
Right.
And that's what these capture devices do. They put these you see them in vacuum cleaners, they're called magnetic lenses.
Right.
They power vacuum cleaners, all right? You see them, big magnetic coils. If you've ever taken apart a CRTV, you've seen them. They're a magnetic coil. Those coils are called magnetic lenses. Anything spinning around inside them is going to affect the magnetic field around it, and that translates to electricity. That's how a kinetic battery works. And this is 18th century technology that we still don't use today, except for maybe a few devices. Now, if you took that flywheel out and put a antimatter in, which is moving at a specific quantum state, it has potential energy in the quadrillions, but you can't release it all at once. Trying to release it all at once, it's only a finite fraction of a second of existence, which only gives a finite fraction of the potential energy.
Right.
And this is technology that isn't that hard to, it's dumbasses like me who can figure out that technology. Why aren't they using it? Why are these bigwigs at CERN trying to still destroy matter? When destroying matter only lasts a fraction of a second. Therefore, you're destroying most of your potential energy.
Right. Well, see,
we're talking about dumb business decisions.
Well,
man, movies have got nothing on science. All right, science is driven by. Science used to be driven by a search for facts. Now it's driven by search for money and prestige.
Well, and political power.
Oh, that's a goal. That's a stepping stone.
Yeah. Because, well, see, in this kid, I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was back.
There's been a lot of movies about antimatter recently.
Well, there was back in, or early 2000s. What's his name? The Drive Miss Daisy dude.
Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman was in a movie where they were talking about unlimited energy from a glass of water.
That's not true, because it has all systems are energy transfers. Okay, the glass of water has a finite energy. Okay, that is specific to its volume of atoms. Okay, that's a given fact. Okay, there's no way a glass of water can have infinite energy. Otherwise, the sun would be absolutely annihilating us right now, right?
Right. But it's
still, how many millions and billions of times the size of a glass of water is, and the sun is an atomic explosion going off every 0.1 of a second.
Right. But I think it was the concept of, energy from other sources, and I forget the name of the movie.
But he was talking about that. He was still seeing the destruction of matter.
Right. But it was that, the idea behind that movie was that this was known, and this was being hidden,
Yes. The idea is correct, but the methodology is actually known to us. It's called kinetic batteries. Okay? All you have to do is find a way of replacing that kinetic flywheel with an atom inside a magnetic lens.
And for our American listeners who are still trying to understand what kinetic, it would be the pronunciation in America. You tend to have two different forms of energy. You have potential energy, you have kinetic energy. Kinetic energy typically involves some sort of motion or change of state. So you're going, that's when heat.
And that's quantum science, change of state.
Right. So it's these are the things I talk about when I'm really drunk. But see, Tab and I, part of why I posted that video the other day on the WCBS fan page was the part of the concept of quantum entanglement that video deals with is when you're shooting marbles through the two slots, that they go through both slots, even though we only see it go through one slot. That's the quantum entanglement. And that's part of why I posted that video, because
it's also when you try to measure the quantum state, you change the quantum state.
Right. So the spin, they've done experiments where they spin an electron, and when they measure it, they depending on how they orient it, the measurement device will change the spin when it's measured. And this was one of the things that so a lot of people have picked up on and done some weird things with. There's two competing ideas here. One is that anything can be in a quantum, the probability that something is in a particular quantum state, and there's multiple state. I forget how many spins.
Quantum mechanics now involves probability of position.
Right. So you have probability of position, because there's certain things that happen in the universe that until a human looks at it doesn't change. And so there was a wonderment of, there's two schools of thought. One is all those states exist, and that's where part of the parallel. I mean, then you end up with quadrillions of parallel universes, or it's those probabilities exist, but until a human observes it, the known the actual probability is not known. And that's kind of the one that's kind of gaining steam. Is it's not so much that the humans are necessarily changing the state, but they are observing the state. And so it's just like a coin flip, right? And even
you missed out the part where it says observing the state in the past. You're observing the nanosecond past.
Right.
You're not observing now, you're observing a nanosecond in the past.
Well, that's the part of it that now doesn't actually exist, right?
Yes.
Everything we observe is in the past. If you see a car run into a building 4 blocks down the street, it's technically however many, the light takes to get to your eye in the past. So
but the reason why I brought it up originally, and you're sort of touching on this about quantum states and light, is Doctor Strange. You remember the crystal patterns at the start? You remember she's doing that the things, and you see the
it looks like glasses breaking or whatever. And then
okay. That's quantum mechanics. A guy has spent the last 40 years developing that theory. It's the n. I'm trying to get it right. The nth dimension. Okay. Think of a cube in 2 dimensions, right? Mm-hmm. Now expand that n times, where n is infinite, of course, but n minus 1 is our quantum state, which is actually 8 observable states, okay, in quantum mechanics. You get a lattice. Now, here's another way you can create a lattice. Get a stack of oranges and stack them up. Now, if you replaced the center of the orange with a dot, right, and connected them all up, you get a perfect lattice. This is observable in nature. This is observable in quantum mechanics. This is observable by electronic machines programmed to merely detect positions of atoms. And how do they detect positions of atoms? Well, what they do is they mix in radioactive materials, and they can triangulate the position of the radioactive elements. But they can actually X-ray down to the atomic level if they actually wanted to, in near absolute zero. But they have to send it in the whole thing into space, and that's what these big secret experiments going on are. They're actually trying to measure an atom. These things they keep sending into space all the time, these top secret packages, sorry. And people wonder why it's so important. What are they're spending millions of dollars for it? Well, see,
hack Bob. What do you mean?
All these things, quantum mechanics.
What do you mean?
I was wondering if you heard her.
They're searching for an energy source. Okay, like I said, they're trying to capture an atom and replace a flywheel. These are the real scientists working here. They're looking at quantum mechanics and going, destroying things, that's only, a fraction of the energy. A 0-point energy battery, in theory, could last thousands of hours. A normal-sized battery could last thousands of hours if it used the kinetic potential of the battery instead of its chemical reactions or the destruction of matter. And the guy writing Doctor Strange saw this guy's YouTube video on quantum mechanics, and that's where he got all those lattice things from.
shit.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know it either. And I thought, holy cow, somebody actually did real science. Look at Star Trek. How often do you see a YouTube video on Star Trek breaking it down and saying, nope, not real science?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you now, there has been an observed event where the aura of a star expanded 30 times its size, and you go, well, that would wipe us out. But the thing is, it's how fast it expanded. It expanded beyond the speed of light. So the sun was going. So basically, you're looking at the sun going, it's a bright day today. Next thing you know, nothing. Gone. Because remember what he said about quantum mechanics, the observed observation of the past.
Mm-hmm.
If something expanded faster than the speed of light, you can't observe it. You can't.
Okay.
So if the sun was going to kill us, we wouldn't know it was going to happen. And if it did, we wouldn't know it was coming.
No, not at that rate. All right, guys.
Yeah.
I'm getting
sorry,
really tired.
I was just tying it in that the only real science has in a movie so far, according to, I'm not sure if it was Neil deGrasse Tyson or somebody else, has been that's sequence in the start of
Doctor Strange.
That's scary. A Marvel movie having the only real science in the last 10 years. He spat the mic out. He swallowed it and spat it out. A Marvel movie being the only real science in the last 10 years.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I am. What's it called? Do you want to promote the watch
Doctor
party?
Strange.
Right.
I used to have the Doctor Strange comics.
I'm sorry. What did you say, Tapman?
No,
I said to promote the watch party before we cut off.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, please go ahead.
Because I'm about to fall over and I'm getting really cold. So in 2 weeks, folks, on December 21st, we will be watching the Star Wars Holiday Special. This is something I have not seen since 1978 when it was on the air. I've been trying to rack my brain because I actually have looked it up. It was in November. For some reason, I thought it was in December. I don't remember why I didn't see the whole thing. I thought it was, my memory was saying we had to go to church or something, but it was like on a Thursday night or something. So I don't know what was going on, but I do remember watching it, but not watching the whole thing. And then asking some other people, hey, what happened? What happened? So, I will, the link we'll sharing around. There's a couple different versions on YouTube. Before we go live, we will put that in the description of that episode. So hopefully that will be episode 61. That hopefully we have something next week. And hopefully next week we can get to some of the stuff that we've actually been trying to get to for 2 weeks and we still haven't. Frank has had a couple times he's had to duck off because something comes up. One time he did come back. But I know there's doing construction and some other crap where he is staying, and so that may be part of it. I want to thank David for joining us. I know it's tomorrow there in Australia, or technically it's yesterday as far as he's
from the future.
So
That's right.
it'll be the 22nd for so tell people in Australia what time we're going to be doing the watch party then in 2 weeks.
8:30 EST, so that's around bugger. Well, it's AM here. It's going to be in the AMs. It's going to be around. So I think it's 11:30 AM when it's on.
Okay.
Australia. So on the East Coast, because we cover 3 time zones, just not the same time zones as you.
Right. Yeah, we have 4. Well, continental US. I think
continental US has 3, and then you got Hawaii.
Well, I think it's 4. It's Eastern. Yeah. It's Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. But I don't know as if Alaska's on Pacific or some other one, and then Hawaii is 2 hours past Pacific. So I know it covers 6 hours, but I don't know if the 5 is in there. And I'm to the point where I'm ready to just do away.
Well, I'm sorry. I know I tend to drag a long story short, but I thought it was really interesting that Doctor Strange actually ties into the quantum entanglement, and that the lattice work representations of quantum entanglement is what they decided to go with for the representation of magic, because science, after all, to the most primitive of us, is actually magic, isn't it? If you don't know how something works,
right? What's
if you
that
didn't know what a
expression?
computer was,
Yeah, it'd be magic.
It'd be magic.
Well, it's
that's
like
right.
any technology. How's that expression?
Any technology sufficiently advanced beyond the comprehension of the observer is
indistinguishable from magic. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll be doing that in 2 weeks. We'll talk about it more next week. Hopefully, we can get to the Godzilla Roundtable. Which
And
I
speaking of magic, Star Wars is not science. It's science fantasy. It's space wizards.
It is. So this week's Hall of Fame inductee is Elizabeth Hurley.
Woo!
She is
a real woman.
I mean, a real woman. If you look at her, she's 53 years old and still looks unbelievably good. Yeah.
Not one of those
I think
boys.
she's in her own category. She's beyond MILF. She's So I want to thank everybody that's hung out. This has been a very different episode of the Fancast.
Hey, Hijack Fancast, great to be on. Great to
it's been
I chat with you guys all the time, but never in real time.
Right.
And it's hard to be funny all the time. I know I'm not that funny all the time, but sometimes I'll come up with the wisecrack or two. But you guys, it's easier to do it to interact with you guys in real time.
And here's what I've noticed about because I also observed this on WCBS. Usually when the dynamic changes, there's you got to get used to it. So there's some other things that go on. So we had Seth Scott, we had Grim Falcon came in. Somebody else I think came in briefly. I don't know who's still listening. Sophie Epi Christian. This is a very different show than WCBS. We don't have the background that
I posted the link to the show to not the chat link, obviously the YouTube link on all about. So because I haven't seen these people on before.
Yeah. Well, and so
thanks for coming, guys.
On the main show, Jeff knows everybody. Jeff's is kind of the center pin, right? He's met Nick at different things. He's done conventions with him. He knew Dion in college. On the original show, some of those guys were here local in Cincinnati that he went to high school with. Dustin, he went to college with. So that's why that dynamic is so much. We've never really met. I mean, I've met Kendo, who used to be on this show, but that's it. So, but that's to me, it's the beauty of the internet, and hopefully YouTube doesn't, decide we're a bunch of sexist pigs and shuts us down. So we'll have Elizabeth on. I've got several different images. I'll upload the thumbnail as soon as YouTube is done.
Because right now the thumbnail's my face, and that is not exactly going to bring in the viewers.
Well, you can't assign a thumbnail on a live stream until after it's processed. I do not know why. I think that is the only option you cannot change. I can change the description. I can change the title. I can change a bunch of stuff except the thumbnail. I can give it a category. I can do all of the tagging.
You can do almost. I've noticed that you can do everything but change the thumbnail while it's on. But the thing is, YouTube, what it does, it's actually grabbing images and creating thumbnails in your cache all the time.
I know.
So I don't know why you can't change it, because they're there on your computer. If you look in the software, it's got all your thumbnails. It's got all your sound bites.
It's so dumb until it processes it and then has it listed under your videos, your posted videos.
I think that's because when you go way back in YouTube, people used to put stuff on their thumbnails that shouldn't be there, but YouTube couldn't see them or whatever it was.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Unless they went to their own homepage and go, holy crap, that shouldn't be there.
I don't know what it is. But we'll have her in the thumbnail, and everything will be fine. So, thanks, Dave.
This is only episode 60, and thanks for having me on. I can't believe that. I've been, because I remember way back when you'd just be sitting there going, just talking about the show and what was discussed on the previous show. And we haven't actually did that. But I'll let you go because we should. We could go for another 2 hours if we discuss.
Yeah, it is 11 p.m. where we are, and well, 10.
Yeah, I know that.
10,
That's
10
why I'm
p.m.
saying.
Yeah, we used to do that, and then
Discuss
over
what they
time we
missed.
just right. Then over time we started kind of adding in, and there are times we don't bring up the show at all.
Becoming your own show.
Yeah,
and
slowly.
having me on, I think took us in a new direction. I mean, us as a whole, as a group right now, because previously when we interacted as a group, it would be still discussing what Jeff missed, or Dion. Dion made a mistake. It wasn't Florida, all right? It was Georgia. He does that all the time. He likes to pin everything on Florida. What's he got against Florida?
Oh,
it's almost Australia.
So yeah, we've gone for 2.5 hours, I guess.
So let's say au revoir to everybody, and thanks for sticking with us, Grim Falcon. I see you just posted something. No weird stories from Kendo or Dion. Yay! You had a weirdo one. I made up for it.
All right, Tabitha, you want to say anything as we head out?
Not really, but my mind is overwhelmed right now with all the science talk. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I on my channel, I will be. I've got some videos that are in the make. I've got some more articles to read.
I just can't drink them. I'm sorry. I just can't drink them.
But I mean, I was doing some article reads, kind of like EVS and some other stuff, and then people are like, "Hey, what do you think about this article?" And people are actually sending me messages. Hey, what do you think of it? So I'm going to get back to doing some of that. I've got about 10 articles I need to read over. I'm trying to. The YouTube algorithm doesn't like it when you post 9 videos a day. It actually likes it when you only do 3 or 4.
That's weird because they let some of the news people go all the time, even though you're not supposed to 24-hour broadcast. But then again, are you bringing them in revenue? That's what it comes down to.
Well, my channel was growing for a long time until they decided that alcohol was a bad thing, and I have been buried. But even then, I still have videos with tens of thousands of views, and then other videos with tens of views.
I get 20, 30, 40 views still on some of my videos. They're not show. I get the email notifications of the view count, but when I go to my page, it isn't there.
Yeah,
it isn't on the view counter. I don't get comments.
Yeah.
I don't get comments. I don't get thumbs up or anything like that. I just get a view notification. I've had notifications on Patreon of patrons. I go there to interact with them, and they're not there. I don't know what's wrong, who I pissed off. I obviously pissed off Google, okay, because I've lost almost all of my followers, almost all of the viewers. But then again, having your computer crash and I'm not able to upload a video for a month does that too. And then again, I'm not calling out Pacific people who cancelled on Patreon, because I did have real patrons at one stage, okay? But I'm just saying there seems to be something going on, not just for the big people, all right, just for the small guy who isn't political, okay? I don't see what's so political about 1984 when even the most hardened left-wingers say, oh, no, that's imaginary. That's a conspiracy theory. So, that's how things will end up. So it's not politics, okay? I honestly think it's a revenue thing. And we're not making the revenue, and they want us off.
Yeah, well, there's several things going on there, and I think a lot of it's corporate mind speak. And I've talked about this before
is driven
too.
By revenue.
Here in the States, alcohol and stuff like that, it's highly regulated. And
like that. You got a government department, alcohol. What is it again? The Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms,
and tobacco and firearms.
Yeah. Everybody says that's the department with the part where the party is, man. They've got the alcohol and the tobacco. The firearms are to keep us little people out.
Yeah. But I have seen when I started doing some other stuff and some other videos, this is part of why I've been doing, I got to get back to doing a content push, because I'm trying to get my beer reviews down as far as a percentage. I've got it down to below 44%, and I've actually since then seen an increase. I also have been uploading stuff on BitChute. BitChute, I get 8 to 10 times the views, or sometimes more, on videos.
I was thinking.
I've got a video on BitChute right now that's almost at 200 views, and on YouTube it's not even up to 15. Same thumbnail, and I've copied and pasted the text in the description. Now BitChute has its own problems. I can't upload as often. It's a lot throttled. It doesn't do high def.
Don't you have to pay to be a member?
Hey, but you know, at least people
Like
are seeing the thing. Do what?
Was BitChute on one of them recently? I saw they're saying, "Oh, you have to pay to be a premium member or something to upload."
Yeah, probably, because we'll see. BitChute was trying to do some stuff and have people, and they got kicked off of Patreon, and there's some other things going on there. I'm on Minds as well, but I'm trying to do more content related to computers and some other math and some other stuff. So Tabandai, you'll be able to expand your horizons a little bit and understand a little bit more about what the heck a state machine is. I'm actually going to draw some things and stuff. It's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, the next revolution is the quantum computer. Once they come out, we're going to be able to do stuff in 3 dimensions in real time.
Yeah,
because the thing that's holding back a digital computer is the size of the number it can calculate with.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the larger machines are a 128-bit. Something like that.
Yeah, and don't forget your mainframes are only 496.
Yeah.
So you think it takes how many months to, it takes how many months just to render Pixar, right? And they're only dealing with 256, 256 color. 256 colors, and then they're shading that, X many times.
So
it's hard to
only
explain
doing 8-bit color on that?
No. Each channel is 8-bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're
that's
using
still only
4 channels. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're using 4 color channels.
Right. But you do, but there's monitors now. I mean, heck, I have a camera that does 10 bits per channel. And most of your consumer cameras are up to 14, and some are up to 16. You got 14-bit monitors though, so
there's a lot of 12-bit color out there.
Yeah, well, the 4K stuff, some of those 4K monitors are at least 12-bit.
Well, they're releasing what's called the expanded television, and it's 24 bits per channel on 4 channels.
Is that high? Okay, because I know Toshiba has one that has like
but nobody can
orange
tell.
gun.
Why would you pay 10 grand for a screen that you can't tell the difference between 12-bit and 24-bit color?
But I can tell.
Well, is the show going to end soon?
Huh?
Yeah.
Have we ended the show?
Let it go. Yeah.
No, I'm trying to end the show for 10 minutes, but David keeps talking.
Sorry. We keep talking. Yes, I know.
See, this is his middle of the day. He's wound up and ready to go, and we're like, I'm going to go to bed. It's late.
Well, gonna have to let. I think my ex wants the sun's back, so I better go.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for anybody that's still sticking around for all this. This has been one of the weirdest shows we've ever done. We started with pop culture and ended up with back to quantum. So it sounds like David and I are going to have to do a show on quantum entanglement and other stuff.
Yeah, glad. We'll have to do that one weekend. Do the whole thing about Doctor Strange and its science. Although I have to prep a little bit for quantum entanglement and try and find this guy's YouTube video so you can see it, because he's the father of modern quantum science, and he surfs for a living.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, let you go.
This is the final good night. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you next week, and in 2 weeks we'll see you for the holiday special. We'll put it in the description so that everybody can follow along. All right.
Descriptions below, comments below, please.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Bye.